Capital City Challenge is where you win the Champions League with a club from a capital city in Europe that hasn't done so already. Looking at my options, Paris seems to be my destination.
I'm sorry, sir, we cannot allow you into this country.
Why not?
At all European countries, we have been advised not to let in any more aspiring football managers with the name Chroo in it. France already has Chroo.
Well, that seems oddly specific and illegal. So, what countries can I enter? Germany?
No, they already have Joaquin Chroo, and before, the Chroo, who is now in Spain, so you can't go there either.
Well, Madrid's won the Champions League. Well, cut the crap. Where can I go to?
These ones.
Norway seems interesting.
No. I forgot about Norwegian O's. There is a homeless football manager living there.
Given this list, I brought it down to 16 countries, got an idea by some guy named Felix to use wheels to determine the final four, and got random people to vote what country I should attempt this challenge in. Poland was the choice, and with Legia Warszawa already happy with their manager in their Conference League dream, they didn't qualify, I decided to take the vacant Polonia Warszawa job. Goals for this challenge isn't just the Champions League. That's gonna be hard enough with me not being able to manage in these countries. So on our way there, whether we fail or not, we have to win the Conference League and the Europa League too. First things first, we need to get into the Polish Ekstraklasa as we are in the second division. How it works in Poland is that there are 18 Pierwsza Liga sides. Top 2 earns promotion, while third to 6 fight in a playoff. The problem? We're expected to get relegated. The previous manager, Rafał Smalec, got them here. However, with strongman extraordinaire Mariusz Krzyżanowski in charge, he introduced himself to this team in the best way possible. Morning, we lift. Lunch, we lift. Afternoon, more lifting. Dinner, we run. Since this club is newly promoted, it has a weak side, so defensive solidity was important. That's why the 3-4-3 is our system. With the wingers and wingbacks going to be wide regardless, we're going to focus our play down those areas. This plan seemed great on paper until Baran broke his ankle. What a Baran. Leaving me with this 20-year-old guy as my only option. With little available to spend, we wouldn't see reinforcements until deadline day. Yet, it didn't seem like we needed them. Our season debut versus recently relegated Miedz began brilliantly, with a fake overlap allowing Xabi Ozmendi to find Paweł Tomczyk. Prior to the half, we would find a second thanks to the previously mentioned Bartosz Biedzicki, whose cross found Wojciech Fadecki at the back post. The width was working, but our defenders were not. 2 goals were scored in the half by Miedz, leaving it level at the break. Overall, we were having a great game, albeit with chances being squandered. A draw on our debut looked certain. However, a corner kick was allowed just after the final minute of added time. Ozmendi whips it in. Yes! Michał Gruniewski! 3-2! Warszawa, the better Warszawa team wins! Let's go! Our team was playing some great stuff to begin the campaign. Yeah, wasting chances became a common theme, which did cost us results. The same goes with silly turnovers and corner kicks, where one game we conceded 3, losing 4-1. Regardless, being outside the promotion spots after 7 matches ain't too bad. With the end of the transfer window arriving, 3 new signings bolstered our ranks. Time will tell whether these guys will have an impact, but you'll hear it from me if they do. Our flaws unfortunately remain. Mistakes with the ball, concentration on set pieces, or plain bad luck kept us winless for most of September. Will that continue? In the Puchar Polski? The cup is a route to get into European football. In another universe, Wisła Kraków would do just that. Our opponent was Ekstraklasa outfit Puszcza Niepołomice. In their league, they were having an unexpected strong start like us. Whose stronger start was more legit? If you base things on results, theirs, because they scored in the 15th minute. It was a wake-up call in the competition where the lower division side plays at home. We were getting close though, smacking the bar near the end of the half. Adjustments were made, seeing them hit the post twice. Not to worry, the red in the team to take them to the hills, and they wake up right away. Specifically, the 32-year-old Michalski, who did magnificently to win a penalty. So, who's our best taker? Our center back? Kołodziejski, who's mainly playing as our libero, has his best attribute being penalties. He smashed it down the middle, giving us a huge opportunity. A draw lengthens this, but we were inching closer for a winner. Then, in the 90th, an outlet pass to our striker was off, and Puszcza immediately got it to Lee, who broke our hearts. I don't think anything's gonna happen. Wait! Tomczyk! Oh! Pavel Tomczyk last minute? Where did that come from? So how did that happen? I ditched the 3-back in order to push forward and hoped. And now we're in extra time with a chance. The tide completely shifted, catching them out once again from a corner. The remainder of the fixture was surprisingly in our control as we achieved an insane victory in the Puchar Polski. 3 wins followed in the league, including Górnik Łęczna witnessing the ghost of Mohamed Keita with these bangers. We were still overachieving, but Lechia Gdansk tore us from left, right, and center. Following, we needed extra time to advance in the Puchar Polski versus Pogoń Szczecin. Oh, they're in the Extra Klasa. That's an impressive win. It was their reserve side. The remainder of November saw 3 tough matches on paper. 14th place Zagłębie Sosnowiec wasn't that. 2nd place Katowice was. And they were completely destroyed by us. While 1st place Arka Gdynia humbled me. Alright, to the hill lads. December was the month of bonker matches. Beginning with Motor Lublin, which is the club that's closest to where my parents are from, at least out of the top 2 divisions. I once heard their coach Gonzalo Fayo got into a heated argument with their director of football where he threw a document tray at him. The owner's response, either he stays or I leave. Gangster shit. And they also went up 2-0 within 15 minutes. Being criminally charged though, isn't gangster shit. Thankfully, they decided to get not 1, but 2 red cards, allowing us to make a comeback well before the end. Following was the 3rd round of the Puchar Polski, and this match, like the 1st round, was something special. We were playing Zagłębie Lubin, who were in 3rd place in the Extra Klasa. Now, they didn't necessarily play their strongest 11. I mean, their keeper's name literally translates to mistake. Maybe their keeper will make a błąd? Oh, they do make a błąd. Tomczyk, boom! 1-0. Polonia, are we on our way to the quarters? That was an hour in, although Lubin responded with a deflected long shot. We'd go behind not long later. The fight to find an equalizer was on, and the last minute arrived. Not again. Right? But Gjabi, he's trying to work hard, but our team isn't helping, but they actually do help. We're on the break. Tomczyk, he's through. Tomczyk, let's go. Oh my days. In extra time, we take the lead from Bajdur, who I never use. 15 minutes away from another stunning result, the FM verse put a hand on my shoulder and brought me to a reality check. 3-all, and with my right wing back injured, we went down to 10 men. Luckily, the lads survived until the shootout. And luck didn't matter because I completely messed up the team talk. I left the huddle with my 1st, 3rd, and 5th shooters confused and demotivated. Tomczyk missed. Huska didn't, but Bajdur did. Our 2 misses meant we were out. To finish off December, last place Rzeszów received 2 pens and scored a banger? Luckily, 1 pen was missed, and we turned it around for a 3-2 win. Finally, against Miedz, despite a red card prior to the half by Pawłowski, Mateusz Michalski came up big with a brace. That victory had us a mere tally from the top, and 7 points safe from a non-playoff spot. A stunning year so far, as the bookies have had to increase their odds more and more. Unfortunately, a 2-month break arrived in the calendar since Poland has some chilly winters. Poland's transfer window doesn't actually start until February, and the only business we did was sell Marciniec to remove his wage. On the ins, Liverpool's Mateusz Musałowski arrived on a free loan, a promising player who could never break into Klopp's group. I decided to give him a start on his debut, and against Chrobré, he'd get an assist. Gjabi and Tomczyk got the goals, and the latter got another versus Wisła Płock. Those February fixtures moved us into an automatic spot. With 13 matches remaining, could we gain promotion with Polonia Warszawa? A brilliant free kick from Wojciechowski gave us a 2-0 lead versus GKS Tychy. However, moments later, our opponents would find one back. Then, in the final 10, we conceded a penalty, seeing us all squared. Finally, in the 90th minute, we capitulated, but it was offside. In the 95th, we earned a corner that got cleared. Remaining patient, we played it around. I'll read you some messages in a second. Muszałowski, Kowalski, Chaika, Michalski. Yahoo! Wait, oh please don't be offside. No! A draw followed by another. If things couldn't get worse, the 3rd game in 6 days saw Odra Opole annihilate us, keeping us 4 points out of an automatic spot. Even worse, they didn't even appoint their new manager yet. Our club was still in an incredible position, but this could easily turn disastrous. We squeezed by the second worst team in the league thanks to Xabi, and Tomczyk came up huge in the following 2 fixtures. Multiple braces caused our poacher to climb the goal scoring ranks and brought a couple wins. Thanks to those results, and Arca having a sudden shift in form, an automatic spot was suddenly ours with 7 to go. With the breathing room to mess up a few times, we did. Górnik Łęczna went better with Xabi scoring and our Argentine Maximiliano Maidana finding the eventual winner. The bad news? Xabi got injured for roughly a month. Our best performer wouldn't be available against first place Lechia Gdansk. His replacement Muszałowski would suffer a similar fate. A weakening left side and a loss of form from others led to a lucky scoreless draw. 4 games remained, and it still looked relatively safe. Although, not ideal that Tomczyk wasn't fit for Zagłębie Sosnowiec, especially with them becoming a favorite for the playoff. Zagłębie Sosnowiec is not the first club we faced with that Z name. Zagłębie is a word used in the mining industry in Poland, an area with resources such as coal and oil. Sosnowiec is located in one of these areas. Why the lesson? Just to distract you from us getting smoked 3-0. It was a horrendous day, making people question whether we'd achieve the top 2. To me, it seemed like a foregone conclusion, but as we hosted Katowice, a different mistake scored on us. Thankfully, we were rescued by our lonely center back for a draw. Sadly, that still meant drop points, resulting in Tychy being only 2 points behind. Our stalemate months ago led to their bad run of form, but they turned it around and were breathing down our necks. Our penultimate opponent was former promotion favorites Arka Gdynia. There's falling off, and then there's Arka Gdynia. We needed a victory or endure being called a bottle job, even though we weren't expected to be here in the first place. Our match was starting, and all to note were a couple of free kicks. However, a corner following the second resulted in more, as we played our way out left and Zauha found the returning Xabi, who ran on and slotted in the opener. 15 minutes after the interval, we found another. Promotion wasn't guaranteed yet, as we'd had to wait another day for Tychy to play. They'd draw Katowice, meaning this 4-point gap was enough to celebrate promotion. We didn't get this team to the Pierwsza Liga, but we took the great work of former coach Rafał Smalec and continued the capital club streak of consecutive promotions, returning to the Ekstraklasa for the first time since their bankruptcy in 2013. There's more history to this. To Tomczyk's goals, Xabi's big moments, and even some decent loanees contributing helped us to have a season to remember. Now ending the season, we drew, which was fine. But reading the headline of the match, Xabi bids farewell to Polonia Warszawa? What do you mean bids farewell? He's joining Cracovia next season? Newly promoted sides have had a solid rate of success in the Ekstraklasa, though none have gotten into Europe. First time of asking. For ourselves, it began brilliantly with us scoring the opener at Lech Poznan. Now if you watched the game live, you would have missed it. Still, that came from our new signing, Michał Rosak, who's playing as an inverted wingback. Regardless, Lech were Poland's strongest side last season, until they collapsed at the end, finishing in 4th. With Rumak out and Koku in, they quickly turned it around thanks to Mikhail Ishak. This is the top standard of our league. Compare that to Tomczyk, who missed a big chance to equalize against his former team. Lech grabbed another late to secure their victory. Despite an increase in wage budget, it was tough to bring anyone else in. Wojciechowski returned on loan, and Sobotka joined as well. However, making his debut versus fellow promotees Miedz, who won the playoff by the way, it'd be Oskar Góra, aka The Mountain. Coming from the Toronto FC Academy, the Canadian-born to Polish immigrants joined us on a free. He would not make an impact. Instead, it'd be the Sandman. Piasek translates to sand. He assisted the goal at Lech, and he'd do the same for Tomczyk at the end, helping the club earn their first victory in Poland's top flight since 2013. The Sandman unfortunately got injured. In his place, Maximiliano Maidana grabbed a brace against Widzew Łódź. A question though, does he exist? Like, he exists here, but if you try to look him up, you can't find him. Now comes Cracovia, the bandits who stole our best player, Xabi Ozmendi, who didn't really do anything as it ended in a stalemate. Hosting Pogoń Szczecin, I can confirm they are better than their reserve squad. Following was Radomiak, who, what the f***, is this badge? Another one of those teams listed earlier still in this league. We cooked them. A first half brace from Paweł Tomczyk and Rosak filling in the Segundo Volante role gave us a 3-1 lead. So I gave a few younger guys some game time with 15 to go. And that was a huge mistake. Radomiak scored 2 in the final 10 to leave with a draw. With our campaign starting in the 3rd week of July, there was one more match before the transfer deadline, as we faced Raków Częstochowa, one of Poland's recent big success stories. A club with a stadium capacity of 5,500 got promoted in 2019, placing in 10th in their debut campaign. In the following 4, they'd finished in the top 2 every single year, winning the league in 2023. They even got to play in the Conference League last season. This is the standard to look at, and the Polish standard is signing a whole bunch of foreign players. Extra points if they're aged over 30 and are east or south of Poland. All that Raków praise didn't matter, as in the 8th minute, the Mountain would ingeniously grab his first goal in Poland. Tomczyk joined in the fun, grabbing his 5th, which gave us a 2-0 lead. It wasn't permanent, but we were still ahead. Despite Raków's continued threat, our defense did well to prevent shots on target. There was a penalty scare, but that went away thanks to VAR. Failing to break us down, we pulled off a stunning result. 7th place through 7 games ain't too bad. Nevertheless, that can't continue if we don't conclude some business.
Let's get down to business.
Deadline day arrived, and the man I wanted was Eric Dziwacz on loan. Perfect for my libero or defensive midfield roles, the only competitors were Odra Opole. In the relegation zone of the Pierwsza Liga, he chose them over me? Are you kidding me? What world are we living in?
You are, and you always will be, street trash.
The guys that didn't mind signing for us included Croatian Diego Zivulic for defensive midfield, Konrad Matuszewski for left wingback. Finally, at striker, I signed a pair of Przemysławs since they were cheap. Their last names also begin with K. With the bookies still disrespecting us, could we continue to prove them wrong? Kind of. Facing Zagłębia Lubin, the club we capitulated in pens against, we were down 1-0 when new signing Piqué and Ujora was sent through in the 72nd and completely missed the net. That soon saw us concede another. Tomczyk didn't do much there, but did the job versus Stal Mielec with a brace. Then arrived the Puchar Polski. First round facing Resovia, I could afford to rotate my team to concede in the 3rd minute. I can't be the fool this time around. Oh, is that 11 shots for the 3rd tier side and 1 for us? Thankfully, 42 seconds after the break, Arak equalized. Filip was loaned away last year and has potential to be a good extra-klasa player. He became a starter pretty quickly, which can't be said about 9 other players. The half zoomed by until added time. Oh my days. No, don't let... We will never speak of this for as long as I am in Warsaw. Something good I was doing was giving young Polish players game time. In the top division, you get a reward the more you play under 22 Polish footballers. The best 5 get prize money, with number 1 receiving 650,000 euros. We were leading this race, although could that prove to be risky with the lack of experience? Potentially, losing 2-1 twice in the next 3 fixtures because of penalties. Luckily, Maidana got us a win versus Puszcza, but the LKS Łódź fixture is what I want to focus on, not for Polish drunk refs. Instead, the injury to Mateusz Kuta, my keeper. I wasn't fully convinced by him, yet he wasn't doing terribly. Sadly, that meant I had to play Adrian Sanda, the keeper whose debut was this game. In his Ekstraklasa debut, he conceded this, which meant I needed a new netminder, especially with the derby next. So I signed Adrian Lis, who is famous for scoring a goal in the 94th minute, and for bouncing a ball very high in the air. He arrived just in time because we had the Warsaw Derby. No, not the race for 3-year-old thoroughbred racehorses. The match with Legia Warszawa. Derby Warszawa is the capital city encounter which hasn't happened since March 30th, 2013. Well, if we ignore the matches against Legia's reserves team. In 78 previous encounters, each side has won 29 of them. With Legia becoming far and away the most successful club from the city since Polonia's relegation, things needed to change. Currently, they were just above us in the table thanks to goal difference, and their coach needed a victory to keep his job. For the first half hour, it was a boring game with no action. A free kick for Legia, though, completely changed this game, as we conceded our 4th penalty in our previous 6 fixtures. Of course, former Biała Czerwoni Paweł Wesołek slotted it, an unfortunate blip before the half. Opening the second, we didn't have to wait long for a response. 33 seconds in, and a deflection goes our way. Chances were then exchanged, and Wojciechowski got injured. He was carrying a knock, and my risk in starting him proved to be foolish, seeing him suffer a torn hamstring. Rosak ended up being moved to the segundo role in his place. That saw Zawistowski at right wing back, and while he's nowhere near the level required, his arrival brought forth a penalty for Polonia. A huge opportunity to give us a lead with 15 to go, and Tomczyk aced it. Our only shot on target was a difference maker, as the better Warsaw team wins the derby. That was our peak moment, because what followed wasn't great. 4 losses in a row. Winning 2-1 versus Chroo, Robert Dadok grabs a brace late. Piastliwice, who offered me a job interview before our encounter, they provided a vapid performance. Their keeper's horseshoes were spilling out of his ass, while we conceded another pen. Jagiellonia saw us get a red card, and Lechia Gdansk, just guess.
This is a pen.
Drawing Miedz finally stopped the bleeding. However, that didn't include a dub. With Lech Poznan to close it out before winter calls, my expectations were low. It wasn't conceding in the 5th minute low. Yep, that's where we were. Seriously, what are you doing? Now, Paweł Tomczyk was having a good season, but with him being a poacher, he might as well not be there when the team plays badly. So I dropped him against his former club. PK Ejora didn't provide me with the most hope, and at half, I expected to soon sub on Paweł and provide his backstory so that when he scored the winner, you'd all go nuts. Instead, I didn't do that. Before a sub could be produced, Rosak found the PK man, and he equalized moments after the interval. Was there going to be more to this story? Well, like we're going to provide problems. They're title contenders for a reason. Now enter the Sandman. Piasek, Piasek, Piasek. Oh yes! Kijora! Brace! His first 2 goals this season against Lech, thanks to the Sandman. That 86-minute goal was the difference. It almost wasn't when my keeper's brain cells evaporated. 11th place after 19 match days is slightly better than I anticipated. Even so, the margin from relegation and Europe was roughly the same. When we returned in February, we brought in 2 free transfers along with 2 loans. Maxi Oyedele, who is part Polish from Manchester United. He'd eventually join on a free next season. Along with him was Marvin de Lima, who looked really good. He did almost nothing. Nevertheless, how did the latter half of the campaign go? Okay, hopefully that was long enough. Bro, come on. Can we at least show some discipline, guys? Do a transfer stream? How many How many penalties do we concede? They're still older than me for the most part. Great tap. He got the ball, referee. Are you blind? All right, nothing there. Wait. Penalty? Are you kidding me? No! Again, another penalty. We conceded 12 penalties. That's more than 1 in every 3 games. This clearly shows that our back line has issues. Although Kuta ended with the best average rating on our team, he was released. With all that being said, it isn't too surprising that we got relegated. Nah, we just finished in the same position as we left off. Well, before the end of the campaign, Europe was looking unlikely, and the same went with relegation. In addition, there was a nasty stain from the derby where Legia got a dish of revenge and stayed for 2nds, 3rds, and 4ths. These are now our logos. Still, there were things to be proud of, like Tomczyk finding the net on 16 occasions, finishing behind the golden boot by 1. Meanwhile, Lech finished behind Raków. In the last 10 years, these two have the same number of Ekstraklasa titles. Overall, our campaign was more than good enough, with positives to reap into next year. That includes league prize money and the 650k for the most under 22 minutes played. We're gonna need to make several changes, as I want to pull a Raków and get into European football in our 2nd top flight season. Can we do so? Maybe, especially with 1.6 million given. Welcome to the club, Lucas Podolski, as my assistant.
Hey, bro.
Retiring in 2024, instead of going for his coaching qualifications, he decided to expand his kebab shop. While that went successfully, he didn't even bother getting a National C license. It may take a while, but I'm sure he'll eventually become a reliable coach. Nevertheless, with us entering our second Ekstraklasa campaign, Europe was my ambitious goal. However, despite Poland's loose foreign player rules, I've decided to limit my foreign signings to 1 per transfer window, which has been done so far. That does mean if a player has Polish in their other nationalities, we can sign them without an issue. Let's call it the Podolski rule. That was the case for Oscar Góra last season, and will be for the group I call the Soy Boys. Sons of immigrants. I guess I don't need the boys part. I brought in several Polish Americans, including Patrick Vidra in attack and Kasper Przybylski in defense. Since a lot of Americans are on amateur contracts, they are fairly easy to bring in. With Lucas Podolski hoping for a positive start, his wish would come true as we'd win our opening 4 fixtures, undefeated in 5. With 3 1-0s, a few guys were key. Goalkeeper Michał Stromnik, who signed from Górnik Zabrze for 35k, Patrick Stelpinski in defense from Ruch Chorzów at 120k. They were aided by yet another return of Olivier Wojciechowski, who joined permanently at 350k. There was also Liam Morrison as our foreign signing, but he's been pretty bad in his appearances so far. That included our first loss of the campaign versus Piast Gliwice. A draw to Jagiellonia soon followed. Making things worse, from an undefeated start to 4 winless, as we lost to Lechia Gdansk thanks to 2 goals in added time. A couple more additions were necessary, like the loans of Marcel Kalemba of Mainz as a DM and Marcel Wędrowski to back up Góra. To finish a very busy window, we spent 800k on Norwegian David Bugai. 2 additional free transfers would arrive in the following months. It's also worth showing these players whose contracts have expired.
You don't have future here.
With the summer business ending, has this team improved enough for Europe? Well, Lech Poznan and Rakov back-to-back will be a big test, although my focus is on the midweek fixture in the Puchar Polski versus Resovia. The third-tier side who stunned us a season ago wanted a repeat. Sadly, playing and losing to Lech Poznan a few days prior meant heavy rotation was required like last year. That wasn't the case for Filip Arak, who, like last year, scored against Resovia. Still, this game had the same vibes to the previous. It was an improved performance, but nothing felt certain. In the beginning of the second half, a poorly cleared header landed on a Resovia player's foot, and Zabrowski hammered it home. Despite playing better, we were pushed into extra time. Going all out for the 15 minutes before penalties, we finally saw something. Corner kick, Rosak. Are we only just going to be able to score from corner kicks? It seems. Oh no, we don't even score from the corner this time. Oh, Pindor! What a goal! Incredible scenes from the 17-year-old! Let me introduce you to Kasper Pindor, the Warsaw-born talent who came from our academy in 2024. Mentally ahead of many colleagues in his age bracket, we've been training his physicality, seeing his pace grow. He's not there technically, or at least I thought. This man beside him is in tears! Advancing in the Puchar was nice, but it didn't stop our winless run in the league. Rakov followed, and we lost this. Not because of their incredible play. Instead, oh, last minute highlight. Let's hope this isn't gonna end up in pain because I have just realized I put the wrong keeper in net. What are you doing? That's one for the subreddit Ekstraklasa boners. 6 without a win in the Ekstraklasa completely erased our brilliant start. Walking away from the game, I needed to adjust my tactic. Question is, why has it stopped working all of a sudden?
Easy, my friend, you know. I have a lesson for me.
Podolski explained to me that even though it's good to have players wide, we've lacked a final third option filling in the pockets between midfield and attack. How do you expect Tomczyk to get any opportunities when wingers and wingbacks are both occupying wide spots? Sure, you have defensive midfielders making runs forward, but you've become quite predictable. Here's what you do. Change a winger to an advanced playmaker. That lets him hover more central spaces, allowing room for the wingback to overlap. The opposition now has new questions to ask. So with that and a few instructional tweaks, we had our system ready. Now, why Pindor in that AP role? Because Maidana may have actually ceased to exist. Pindor doesn't have great passing, but he's got the vision. In our first game with this adjusted tactic, Widzew Łódź were dominated. Pindor found the second, and Paweł Tomczyk grabbed the third. Kalemba missing a pen didn't deter him, as he found another goal versus Wisła Kraków. The newly promoted side had been struggling in their Ekstraklasa return, and it wouldn't get better for them. Pindor would go on and claim a brace, and by the 23rd minute, Tomczyk made it 5-0. We ended with 6, as these tactical tweaks proved to be brilliant. Now, where were the players at training the next day? What the? Next up was the derby at Legia's stadium. That 6-2 loss was still in our minds, and they have seemingly rebounded from their poor league finish. For all the close moments we survived, Legia would eventually take the lead. That L wouldn't remain with us. A poor kick from their keeper led to Pindor heading the ball forward to Vidra, who equalized it, earning us a draw. Pindor's 2 goals and 3 assists earned him the Player of the Month. Our momentum continued into November, beginning with Roszak, whose strike and helper versus Brookbet Termalica led to a 4-0 triumph. We've now built ourselves into a European spot, but away at Slonsk, who are right behind us, what was expected? Oscar Gura had an awful debut campaign. Not well known in his native country, he took a risk to join us, yet delivered stinker after stinker. Maybe he should return to Canada. However, Coach Krzyżanowski instilled the belief back into him, and he looked like a new man to begin the season. That all led to this match at Slonsk, where he grabbed a first half hat-trick. Absolute scenes, as he helped us destroy our opponents 6-1 in their backyard. Another goal versus Radomiak led to successive victories. Unfortunately, they'd eliminate us in the 3rd round of the Puchar Polski. That small blip aside, the Mountain would grab one more in a comfortable win over ŁKS Łódź. There was no Ekstraklasa losses before the winter break, as we went 9 undefeated, placing us in 2nd, safe from 5th, by 4 points. Krzyżanowski was doing a great job, but if you ask the media and fans, they believed that Podolski was the tactical mastermind and I was just a motivating gym teacher. Regardless, we got 15 fixtures to fight through in order to keep our European place. We lost our first game after the break. To be fair, Cracovia are a strong team, and like Lech, made the Conference League round of 16 as a top 8 side. Granted, they both got obliterated by Greek sides in the first leg. To restore some positivity to the fans, we signed Filip Pawłowski from Swedish club Iniew Broma Poikarna. He'll train his passing and vision in order to compete with Pindor as the advanced playmaker. On his debut from the bench, he won a penalty and took it himself. More importantly, he assisted Gura's second hat-trick of the campaign, 5-0 past Stal Mielec thanks to the Mountain, and that momentum continued. An early strike led to a win over a resolute Pogoń side. Concluding the month, he would grab the supposed fastest goal in Polonia Warszawa history. Aiding in Tomczyk's brace, the man earned his 2nd Player of the Month award. Just because February ended didn't mean his performances slowed down, hitting the back of the net again in a victory over Jagiellonia. He played a huge part in our 10-point lead ahead of the last European spot, with the defenders earning their paychecks too. We then ended our transfer business with our foreign signing of a man we'll call Hulk Hogan.
That doesn't work for me.
Maybe that's what Podolski felt about him, as he was approached by Lechia Gdansk to become their manager. When I tried to convince him to stay, he felt hurt, so I put my hands up and let him make his own decision, and he officially became their manager. He was our next opponent. This nice relationship I had with Poldi, yeah, I guess it was fake or something because he completely trashed me before the game. Was he hiding these emotions all this time? We're up 1-0 thanks to an own goal, but poor marking off a throw-in equalized the affair at the half. He knew my tactics inside and out, and even with me playing some unfamiliar faces, in the 52nd, one of them would make a crucial error. Clear that away, win the ball back, please. Nice. What? Pawłowski, that was you? Lechia slotted in the pen as we were defeated. Drop points continued, with a draw to Lech and Raków just being a better team. Nobody was catching them, as they kept on making banger signings. They're a force to be reckoned with, except in the Puchar Polski, where they lost the final to Cracovia, getting their revenge over Wisła 2 years later. That outcome results in only the top 3 in the league receiving a European spot, meaning our gap was only 1 point. The pressure was on, and Oscar Gura thrived under it, assisting twice versus Widzew Łódź. Another arrived in the game-winning goal at Wisła Kraków. Then came the derby. Legia had fallen off a cliff, seeing them sack their manager again. That L from last year is still lingering despite our draw 6 months ago. We needed to return it, but nothing was occurring by the break. That would change within 10 minutes. Tomczyk would take care of the pen and continue to show that he wasn't a one-season wonder. This match though would be wrapped up by the academy kid. Pindor makes it 2-0 over Legia. Absolutely beautiful scenes, tears in my eyes. A 3-0 triumph returned the L back in Legia's badge as we weren't getting stopped in our pursuit of Europe. Whether it was Góra, Tomczyk, Kalemba or Roszak, 2 additional wins guaranteed placing us as the runners-up. Continental football was my aim, and we achieved it. This would end up being the final table, as Lech surprisingly missed out on Europe. A Conference League second round qualifying spot was earned. This was a campaign of many storylines. Redemption, as Góra more than proved to himself and everyone that he belongs with 15 goals and 9 assists. Tomczyk couldn't catch the top scorer, but 17 goals can't be scoffed at. We've got to give love to Pindor too, whose 8 goals and 3 assists brought a smile to my face. Many of our players charted in the top 10 for assists, and our keeper Stromnik would have equalized Łukasz Fabianski's clean sheet record if he played in the final 4 games. Finally, on the award front, Marcel Kalemba won the Young Player of the Season, which was a pleasant surprise. The netminder won the award for his position, and Góra got Midfielder of the Year too. Wait, not Player of the Season? Ignoring that obvious snub, it was a fun 12 months, which concluded with a transfer budget boost and Krzyżanowski winning the Manager of the Season. Despite that award though, we never won a single Manager of the Month award. Second round of the Europa Conference League qualifiers, facing off with Swedish club IFK Norrköping. We lost the first leg.
These players, they're horrible. My players are no good.
There are 3 stages we have to go through in order to be in Europe. To avoid an underwhelming start to the season, we brought back Kalemba from Mainz, 750k out of our 2.6 million budget. A couple of wonder kids arrived too, including Kazimierz Nowak from Arka Gdynia. For 275k, he looks to be our future striker if Tomczyk falls off. Arka would also buy a couple of our soy boys too. Finally, Franko Jaroszewicz became our cup keeper. Of course, with a last name like that, he is part Polish. No foreign signing yet, but could we overturn the Swedish deficit? Of course! Tomczyk would grab a brace in the opening half hour, giving us the advantage at the break. Unfortunately, the tie would be equalized minutes after the restart. Our opponents were eliminated by Cracovia in the Europa League qualifiers via pens. We wouldn't have to enter that territory, as Pindor found the winner just before the clock struck 52. On to the third round, which is the furthest this club has ever gotten to, if we don't count the Intertoto Cup. Unfortunately, losing to Dutch side NAC Breda sent them out ages ago. This time, we draw Heerenveen. With some of the players they had and their valuations, you couldn't blame me for being worried. Those thoughts were eased pretty quickly when our guy Pindor became a miracle maker. Heerenveen were surprisingly held down, and while their presence increased in the second, ours would overpower them. So much so, a ghost penalty was given, handing us a 2-0 lead.
The referee is a tit.
Then, Pindor's competition on the right, Pawłowski, would make it 3. To make it worse for Heerenveen, soon to be loaned out soy boy Vidra made it 4. There is no escaping that deficit, as we moved on to the 4th and final round quite easily. Between Sporting and Zuid Waregem, thankfully it was the Belgian club, as they dropped down to face us. Surprisingly finishing in 3rd, they didn't seem to have as strong of a team compared to Heerenveen. That would show as we completely destroyed them 4-0 at home. A rotated side in the second leg did lose, but we secured proper European football for Polonia for the first time ever. Meanwhile, the Ekstraklasa was fine, barring the loss to Łukasz Podolski again. This will be the last time you hear from him, as in November, he'd moved to Estrela da Amadora in Portugal, who are at the bottom of the table. To be fair, Lechia was a sinking ship, he quintuple his wage, and keep them up. With European squad registration occurring before our transfer deadline day, there was some drama. Liam Morrison, who scored this banger,
see that?
Well, his release clause was matched by Rangers on the same day as registration. I had a deal to go through for a different Scot named Dominic Hyam, and to be fair, he was an upgrade. Sadly, we'd see the exit of Jan Majsterak, who's been here since the start. 3 loans then arrived on deadline day. Rakus Jakumonczyk as our starter in the Ekstraklasa, Ivo Kaczmarski from Empoli, and Niko Adamczyk via Borussia Dortmund. And the latter two would immediately get injured. With these 6 fixtures in the Conference League, the minimum is to finish in the top 24. With no English side present, this competition was wide open. There were clear favorites like Villarreal, who we faced in November and narrowly lost to. Besiktas in December was the same story, except the goal should have never happened. We did get wins, such as against St. Gallen. Also, Casa Club Kairat Almaty were dealt in similar fashion. However, we were lucky not to lose to Slovenian champions Celje. Pavlovsky scored a pen to give us the lead, yet after their equalizer, they dominated the remainder of the match, only for Jarošević to keep them out. Finally, Hapoel Beersheva were about to be defeated with Kalemba's late strike. Then in the 93rd minute, they'd equalize, which at that point killed the hope of top 8. In fact, we placed 20th and risked facing some damn good teams. Returning our focus onto the Polish competitions, similar to the summer months, it was alright, winning many games, but doing the opposite on several occasions. The increase of European football definitely impacted us. It'd also be nice if the schedule makers would stop giving us Lech and Rakov back to back, as we dropped points in both. A lot of the main guys were still performing well, especially Góra, who scored in a massive derby win over Legia Warszawa. Tomczyk scored too, and Pindor continued to get game winners. However, these favorites were causing jealousy among other players who were on the bench. Hulk Hogan, for one, didn't like being on the left. Then for Novak and Pavlovsky, both expected more game time. This wasn't helped when we dropped games in November. The alternate 3 were at least doing a good job in the Puchar Polski, helping us to finally advance to the quarters. In the Ekstraklasa, we were in first place, although mostly due to Rakov and others being below par. That didn't stop the complaining, as I promised Novak and Pavlovsky to increase their minutes in the new year, while Hulk, I'm sorry man, I prefer you off the bench. The Conference League on the other hand was set to the classic front 3 of Góra, Tomczyk and Pindor. In our playoff round against the 9th to 16th place team, Lille, Panathinaikos and the Chroo-less Boavista were the obvious challenges. Our opponents would be the Greek side. The first leg will be at home, in front of a fairly empty stadium. Apparently, our regular place isn't good enough for UEFA, so they forced us into the Narodowy, which is the national stadium. Don't let the empty seats fool you. We broke several of our attendance records. Panathinaikos were clearly the better 11 on paper, and we were missing a key player. Michal Roszak joining on a free was a crucial reason why we got to this point. In my head though, I always said if we can receive 5 million, I'll let him go. Clubs have tried, but Celtic became the first club to actually make an offer in the millions. Roszak seemed eager to move there, and despite signing a long-term deal, I didn't want to deal with his unhappiness. So when Celtic offered a package that can increase to over 5 million with a massive sell and non-profit clause, I reluctantly said yes. I also thought it was a good step in his career to start at Celtic. He was immediately loaned to Coventry. His replacement, Christos Kourfalidis, unfortunately arrived long after the registration deadline, leading to this 11. An 11 that shut out Panathinaikos. 0-0 wasn't an exciting watch. However, it gave us a slim chance in Greece. The second leg began brilliantly. Arak? We scored! Let's go! We're up! Surviving the remainder of the 90 was going to be a task, especially when Panathinaikos got close in the 24th. 5 minutes later, we'd inch closer. Ooh, Bugai is open. Bugai, one more pass. Tomczyk! Yes! No, he's offside? 2-0 would have made me confident. Instead, our opponents were able to get one back prior to the half. An incredible shot, and now one mistake would be detrimental to either side. That error would occur with Góra's misplaced pass on a counter-attack. Countering that counter, spaces were left open as Jorgos Nikolas took the lead for the Greeks. We couldn't respond, ending our European nights. It got worse. We won the 2 Ekstraklasa games that preceded each leg, but drew Lechia Gdansk after our elimination. The midweek matches continued versus LKS Łódź, who, I'm not sure if I mentioned, is a competitive rival to us. With goals from both sides in extra time, we were forced into a penalty shootout. Hulk Hogan opening with a dink was a great omen. The reliable Oyedele then was stopped. So was Novak, bringing us down 3-1. Thankfully, Youth Academy player Mariusz Vidra got the second, and our keeper finally made us stop. With the tallies at 3-2, Pawłowski needed to score, and he did whatever the hell this was. Entering the Jagiellonia encounter, we were 7 points clear at the top. Even better, we cooked Jagiellonia. 4 found in the first half, seeing each alternate front 3 attacker getting a goal. Yeah, we almost balled it, but that victory would be added with 2 more. Novak and Pawłowski took advantage of a 10-man Wisła Płock. Śląsk meanwhile saw our 2 defensive midfielders find the back of the net. With 9 fixtures to go, we were 11 clear at the top. The title seemed to be wrapped up, with every club in Poland struggling and Góra returning from injury. That's what I would say if we didn't have to deal with Lech and Raków. Lech Poznan were still in the fight for Europe, yet their struggles from a year ago still lingered. And our Scot Dominic Hyam opened the encounter. Unfortunately, they'd scored consecutively prior to the half. In the last 45, we needed our Scot once again to rescue a draw. A similar outcome occurred hosting Raków. A 9-point gap is nothing to be scared of. At least, it shouldn't have been. Cracovia weren't returning to Europe with their elimination to Lille in the round of 16, and they played like a side who should have been destroyed by us. Several opportunities were presented, but with miscommunication between Bugaj and Przybylski, our opponents would open the scoring. More opportunities were blocked and missed, as we finally lost in the Ekstraklasa after 11 undefeated. Widzew Łódź didn't go much better. Despite their early red card, the attempts were all from us, even an 86-minute penalty, which didn't give us what we wanted. Even worse, Góra got injured for a month. Going 4 winless resulted in a 6-point gap with 5 fixtures left. The timing of this form was brutal, especially with the Warsaw derby next. Legia couldn't bear to see us lift the Ekstraklasa for the first time since 2000, and they did their job by stunning us with 3 first half goals. Similar to the 6-2 result a few years back, nothing we did would prevent another loss. 4 points above Zagłębie Lubin and 5 above Raków. This was looking ugly. With Góra out and both Novak and Tomczyk not having any form, I decided to shift things around and start Hulk up top with Pindor and Pawłowski on the wings versus Stal Mielec. Playing on the left, the latter would grab his own rebound 2 minutes in. Then, in the last 15, Bugaj found the Hulkster to confirm our victory. Afterwards, we learned that Lubin drew and Raków lost to Lech. Now, a 6-point gap. Lubin would draw Łódź, meaning we could win the Ekstraklasa with a victory. A 1-1 draw at half brought a sense of unease, but a couple of subs would confirm the inevitable. Pawłowski's rebound found Paweł Tomczyk for the lead, and in the 70th, Kasper Pindor would grab the eventual game-winning and title-clinching goal. For the first time since 2000, Polonia Warszawa were the Ekstraklasa winners. Champions of Poland once more. It'd be easy to say that we'd made significant improvements from the previous campaign.
That's absolutely not true.
In reality, we finished with less points. Everybody else was just crap. These two were sold. One for 20 million and the other for 500k. That doesn't matter though, because we brought in Arkadiusz Milik, who no longer has pace.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Coming off a historic title, we can focus on the capital city portion of this challenge, winning the 3 European competitions. Realistically, our best odds are to enter the Conference League and avoid the English side. The problem, winning last year's Ekstraklasa sent us to the second round of Champions League qualifying. I am aware of the money you earn for entering the league phase, but I'm not ready to go 8 and out. So let's begin Conference League dreaming. Surely, we'll face stronger opponents and be sent down. The best of Bulgaria, Ludogorets, were defeated. I honestly expected a tougher challenge. That means I have to lose to Karabakh. And you know, I have a lot of guys that need match sharpness. About 8 or 9 are teenagers, some learning new positions too. Now, what can they do on a European away night? The free signing of Paweł Micierski from Norway, who's learning left wing back, literally danced through their entire defense. That's fine. Some players want to impress, although we were a little too dominant. Oh, thank goodness Karabakh scored. However, my academy right wing back Olchak, who has 3 finishing and 5 off the ball, moved into scoring positions twice to grab a brace. What the crap is going on? Karabakh looked like they didn't care, and when they did get opportunities, Bobek stopped them. We'll get to him in a second. I adjusted my formation to emulate Moses and the Red Sea. In turn, they kept missing chances, and we continued scoring. In reality, I thought this game would end something like 6-1. But not for me. Regardless of what competition we're in, it'd be done without Franko Jaroszewicz. He was supposed to be my #1 keeper. That was emphasized with the contract I gave him last season. The problem? I didn't want to increase his wage immediately. So it was to start on June 28th. With the contract signed and sealed away, I looked forward to our future. Then, in the middle of June, his foreign release clause was matched. Yeah, a clause valued at 525k, which I removed in the new contract, yet was still active for another 2 weeks. I couldn't do anything. Thankfully, he did sign our contract already, so he's not leaving. June 28th arrived, and before our social media team could announce the extension, he wasn't there for pictures, and neither was the contract?
Here we skedaddle.
He signed for PAOK? Damn you Greeks. This was disastrous, and his replacement would be Bobek. Look, this guy can become good. Let's give him a chance. Returning to the second leg, I needed to be more extreme to execute my scheme. Instead of 1 goalkeeper, we began with 3. However, after 10 minutes, Karabakh had done nothing. So I shifted things as such, got rid of any sort of instruction, and let the rest play out. Okay, Bobek, you're playing too well. I'm sending you to the left wing. Things were going as expected. 3 by the half meant it was 6-4 on aggregate, and by the 70th minute, Karabakh leveled it. With 20 minutes remaining, this was all but guaranteed. Although, after the kickoff, we sent a ball to Tomchik and he scored. Lads, the plan is simple. Bobek scores? What the crap is going on? Karabakh still had 15-ish minutes to win this, or at least send it to extra time. Alright, they found the 7th with 10 to go, and they're immediately through again. Okay, let's increase the space in the defense. We were in added time with nobody defending, and they were sent through with 4 players against the keeper. Bro. Oh my gosh! We advanced to the last round of Champions League qualifying.
Even when I lose, I win. I am champion of champion losers winning champions.
Belgium Pro League winners Anderlecht were the final opponents. I played this initial squad away, we drew 1-1, used the same 11 at home, and we're drawing until I did this. That led to the desired outcome, narrowly losing, meaning we were in the Europa League. On a side note, all of this is rather embarrassing because losing that home qualifier meant that the largest crowd we ever had left disappointed.
Gentlemen, my bad.
Pawłowski was sold for 20 million. While the saga was long and unnecessarily dramatic, he ended up going to Cadiz, who are in the 2nd division of Spain. I don't ask the questions, I take the money. Good luck to Filip Pawłowski and your journey to irrelevancy. During the Ekstraklasa, we've been cruising. Despite once again receiving Lech and Raków back-to-back for the 3rd straight year, we defeated both of them. Raków specifically were smoked 3-0. Plus, we defeated them in the Supercut prior to the season. A few draws did occur. Thankfully, several signings helped us remain undefeated by the end of the transfer window. Firstly, Kaczmarski returned for 44k after a successful loan. Then, after 4 years of trying, I finally brought in Eric Żywasz on loan from Wolfsburg. Great for the libero, he was joined by Slonk's Tomaso Guercio. Not really a Polish sounding name, he signed for 1.8 million. Finally, with the North American Polish pipeline drying up, we built a new one from Norway. Years ago, I found this Muda guy for free, who's developed immensely. Now, we have our backup left wingback Pavel Majerski, who played in Norway, but wasn't Norwegian. Finally, look at Bartosz Grudziński. At 1.5 million, all I have to say is, wow! That was all before the Pawłowski money, and none of it was spent. Okay, 525k was on our foreign signing Ken Taylor. Another Scottish center half, and maybe a future libero? Being in the Europa League is alright. With these fixtures, we have a chance to make the next round. Beginning with Swedish club Häcken, I thought, easy. That was an error on my part, as prior to the half, we conceded from a brilliant dribble by Butska. Added to that was long shot itis. Basically, when players who shouldn't be shooting from distance do so often and injure someone in the crowd. We went more positive in the second half with a wingback and Segundo on attack, while the libero on support. This increasingly risky approach would lead to Żywasz taking a long shot. Thankfully, some sense got into us, as Grudziński found the Hulkster for the nevermind. No worries, 6 minutes later, Bugai's cross landed on Hulk's foot for the actual equalizer. Fighting for the winner, our opponents did not give up, smacking the bar. Entering at a time, pushing even further, we were lucky with them missing this tackle, allowing Kalemba to find Grudzinski for the winner. Going from that, Lens would be the following opponent. And are you really surprised that we lost when they had footballers like this and this? Best not to talk about this. Following were the Greeks of Olympiakos, and the country's dominance over Polish sides unfortunately continued. In spite of Gura producing quite possibly the greatest header I've ever seen, Olympiakos scored off a corner and a deflected shot from their other center back. 1 win and 2 losses wasn't a great start, and neither was the beginning of Dinamo Zagreb, falling behind by 2. Everything seemed doom and gloom, but in comes Kasper Pindor to save us once again. A banger to go along 2 assists propelled us to a fantastic victory in Zagreb. Utrecht followed in what was an entertaining draw. Rapid Vienna then saw a slim victory thanks to an own goal. 2 match days left, and we are in 14th place. Good odds to qualify, yet top 8 seemed highly unlikely. Meanwhile, in the Ekstraklasa, undefeated. Oskar Gura continued to live up to his iconic status with 15 contributions. Half of the players on the average rating list were ours, and the defense had the ability to break Ekstraklasa records. The problem? I don't want to finish first. Poland has improved their European standing rapidly. That means first place earns a European spot in the Champions League playoff, meaning we can't get into the conference. I also don't think I can bottle first place at this point without ruining the team cohesion, which I don't want to do while in the Europa League. So the plan is to qualify for the Champions League next year, just to rake in the money to see how tough it really is. However, in the Ekstraklasa, I will play my worst lineup every second game. That will prevent rage from those who have important team status, and it will hopefully lead to more competition. Surely, this aspiration won't be futile. Entering January, Wolfsburg recalled Grzywac. There was a convo earlier in the campaign with their manager, who yelled at me angrily in Discord.
Why isn't Grzywac playing?
Wait a minute, he's playing almost every fixture.
No! Why isn't he playing as a ball-playing defender?
Mate, he's starting and developing.
This isn't enough. I am so mad right now. He will be recalled first chance I get.
We had no main libero option for January, with our window closed until February. That forced Kalemba there for Braga, as Hiam wasn't match sharp. While not the best, Braga have been a respectable side for the past 5 years, including having the 2017 U17 World Cup star, Abel Ruiz. His pass to Esquivel led to a goal that confusingly went in. We didn't cry though, as immediately, Oyedele was found behind, and his pass to Novak brought the score level. In the second half, we nearly found the lead. Meanwhile, Abel Ruiz shot it out for a throw-in. To be fair, Braga got close too, as this was looking like a surefire draw, which I would take. Then, the last seconds arrived. Due to an injury, it went past the minimal allotted time, and Braga had a throw-in. Oh gosh, we're past the added minutes. Braga, on it, they cross it in. No! In my devastation, we did learn our spot in the top 24 was basically safe. Nevertheless, we want to finish 9th to 16th in order to avoid some of these potential matchups. To conclude the league phase, we hosted Shakhtar Donetsk. Pulling off a late run in his segundo role led to the opener from Kaczmarski. That was the only goal, as we earned the victory along with a 14th place finish. Off to the playoffs we go, but even with us in the seeded section, there were some potentially tough opponents. And second division side St. Pauli, managed by Joachim Chroo? We didn't draw them, as it was down to Athletic Bilbao and FC Utrecht. Please not Bilbao. Please not Bilbao. Utrecht were our opponents again. I breezed past the last encounter, however, they did challenge us. We were overrun in the midfield, which led me to go mentally deranged. That led to a stalemate then, but what about now? A corner kick header from Guercio was enough to separate us. I'm surprised it worked, so let's stick to it. This time at home, Utrecht weren't getting a sniff until the 90th minute, where Bobek easily killed their hope. We had a goal from our soon-to-be superstar Grudzinski back in the 69th as we advanced to the round of 16. A great feeling like being undefeated in the Ekstraklasa. With plan to fraud occurring next year, I thought, why not try for an undefeated season? With Raku between the European legs, we conceded a late penalty and lost. By the way, we lost in pens in the Puchar Polski to LKS Łódź in December, and guess what? They won the damn thing as a Pierwsza Liga club. Regardless, the draw was beginning and oh boy, we are gonna get a difficult side. Maybe we could do something against Rangers, if they were picked. Instead, it was Conference League winners, Lille. Okay, oh, he's good too. Jonathan David is still here, and my best player is injured. Even with all that talent, the first leg was at home. We had to keep it close, and oh boy, we sure didn't. An absolute vibe killer to our season, as Jonathan David must have heard Krzyzanowski's comments years ago about him never being that guy with a 36-minute hat trick, and it ended 5-1. With it out of reach in the second leg, our season was actually done. Worst of all, our fan attendance record broke once again during that defeat. I was in no mood to see us win the league title by 16 points. The trophy was lifted with 5 games to spare, and we spent the remainder on how to execute the future plan to fraud. So while our strongest team will play in the Champions League and probably have a tough time, the main focus for next season is to not win the Ekstraklasa. I would like to reassure to the journalists and the fans that this supposed plan to fraud, or what some people are calling Project 2029, has nothing to do with me. Nobody at Polonia is associated with the idea of not winning the Ekstraklasa. To reassure everyone, I will not use irregular formations, play multiple keepers in the outfield, nor shall I start an outfielder in net. Our priority to begin the campaign is to lift the Super Cup against newly promoted LKS Łódź, have a strong start to the Ekstraklasa, and qualify for the Champions League proper by defeating a club the comment section certainly won't make jokes about. I hope that eases concerns. Thank you for your time. Media.
The world is watching. Do not let us down.
No matter how easily we won it last season, the Ekstraklasa is never guaranteed. With those past allegations cast aside, those should be targeted at Rakov, who lost 5-0 on opening day and were in the relegation zone following our draw with them. However, they failed to qualify for the Conference League. In reality, a lot of Polish sides are terrible at scheduling friendlies, such as Jagiellonia, who we did defeat on opening day. It's impossible to be perfect though, as we suffered a defeat to Zagłębie Lubin after a shocking goal from Kubakowski. Fears were quelled by ending the undefeated start of Lech Poznan. Of course, they may consider themselves unfortunate by hitting the post twice, but that's not my issue. Preparing for the Champions League, we had a window where a few main figures exited, like Filip Arak to Rakov. A technical day one, that move was softened by Famalicão's Pedro Gomes and former Wisła Kraków defender Adam Buczkowski. Next gone was Kalemba, who was crucial in our early days of the Ekstraklasa. He's off to Widzew Łódź, while we used our summer foreign signing on Frode Fredriksson from Norway, the most expensive signing in our history. To conclude the business, me and the Hulkster got into a spat about him playing as striker, resulting in him saying, "That doesn't work for me, brother," as he exited for Lechia Gdansk.
We've been hanging and banging, brother!
Where he started on the left, got pocketed by Oyedele, and was humbled. Finally, we confirmed last year's loan signing Alan Burita on a permanent basis. The Ekstraklasa seemed more competitive this year, but with these encounters, how much more difficult will the Champions League be compared to the Europa? It begins with Strasbourg, a side that has consecutively finished second in Ligue 1. The fear of the French was on my mind. However, less than 90 seconds into the fixture, Gura's cross to Burita made it 1-0. Just after 5 minutes, we would make it 2. A corner in the 8th, hammered home by Buczkowski. The most impressive first half in Polonia Warszawa history will be concluded with another from the center back, leading to a 4-1 victory. Wow, maybe I was overestimating the difficulty of the Champions League. I shouldn't even have tried to go to those peasant European competitions. We lost to Atalanta 4-0. Everything they touched turned into gold. Meanwhile, the Ekstraklasa was going fine. Braces were giving us victories, including Tomczyk, Novak, and Gura. Unfortunately, LKS Łódź would get some redemption from the Super Cup, as they made us drop points before AC Milan. There was a problem. Bobek didn't concede versus Łódź. He suffered a hamstring strain, which caused me to use my backup. I don't have one. Bukowski left on a free, and Stromnik retired and became an under-19 goalkeeping coach. That saw 15-year-old Robert Wieteska called up, who couldn't play in the Champions League. Luckily, we had Laurent Sabatier, who's mooching off 65 euros a week while out of contract. I just never told him to leave, and in his only game he'll ever appear in, he kept a clean sheet against AC Milan. Meanwhile, with Wieteska, he kept consecutive clean sheets versus Legia and then in the cup at Rakov. An early Fredriksson strike quieted our rivals, and a much-deserving own goal had us advance past Rakov. Brookbet Termalica were then defeated too. Up next were 2028 Europa League finalists, Sporting. They succumbed to Chelsea then, and would do so again in the Champions League opener. It's been rough for them, especially when their arch rivals Benfica won it a few years ago. At the very least, they got to witness Neymar play football for them. Regardless, our lineup wasn't perfect, with Gura constantly getting injured and Bobek literally forced to start while in rehab. Yet, he was making good saves, while Novak would grab a goal in an offside position. I felt confident in how we were doing, so I switched from a cautious approach after the break, which immediately led us to concede. Then, prior to the 70th, Pindor's suicide ball caused Grudzinski to be shown his second yellow. With Novak offside once more, we lost to the losers of Lisbon, and would miss our best player in a crucial fixture. With Slonsk before that, our team needed to be rested, resulting in 2 shots conceded from distance to lose. Now, why is this Anderlecht game crucial? Well, it's one of the last few winnable matches, plus they did knock us out of the Europa League last campaign. Granted, I was at fault for that. Without our star man, Oyedele knew his role, filling in Grudzinski's boots to grab the opener. Rarely a starter, but Maxi is always reliable. Ooh, they've cast corner kick. Come on, we have 3 center backs that can defend this. Come on! Could we survive a half with 10 men? Not with a rehabbing Bobek. Anderlecht put the beat down on us, as Bobek could barely move to prevent a 4-1 loss. That dropped us out of the top 24 with 3 battles remaining. In the Ekstraklasa, we rebounded with multiple 1-0s, plus defeating Lech Poznan in the Puchar Polski third round thanks to Fredriksson's banger. Unfortunately, having to rest our team prior to Rangers caused a loss to Pogoń. With Jagiellonia defeated a week later, that brought a halt to the Polish campaign, where we were in first place above Lech via head-to-head. Let's now worry about Rangers. Consistently finishing behind Celtic during our adventure, this encounter was crucial for the both of us. Failed to earn 3 points, and we're basically out with Manchester City and Benfica in January. Sadly, we were on our way out, being a goal down. That was until the 70th, where from a corner, Buchkowski smashed in the equalizer. With 20 to go, the momentum sharply shifted, as our Champions League dreams remained alive thanks to Berita's brace. That slotted us into the top 24, and after a month of no competitive fixtures, we had to visit the Etihad. They have many familiar names, but is that Ansu Fati who was bought for nearly 300 million? My keeper gets injured a minute in? Oh, we're fucked. This time, I was able to register the now 16-year-old Viesteca, and to be fair, he finished with an 8.0 rating. That was bound to happen when our opponents had 33 shots. Unfortunately, his inexperience showed as they scored 2, which was barely enough, with Novak's late consolation strike. Prior to the match, we were sitting outside 24th, and afterwards, we were back in? Thank you, Manchester United. Entering the final match day, half of the competition played prior, resulting in us dropping out of the qualification spots. A draw to Benfica could be enough, but knowing the other Lisbon club had to face Cypriot side Anorthosi, they'd realistically finish above us. Meaning, winning was in fact the only option. Easy, just defeat the team that's done 2/3 of the challenge you're doing. Could we pull it off? Not if we defend like this. Conceding our first shot was rough, as we had 45 minutes to rescue this campaign, just for us to concede a penalty. Dramatically though, Kochku would hit the post. Soon, Guercio would nearly equalize. Unfortunately, Benfica would find gaps in the defense, making it a 2-goal lead. It was all or nothing, and despite trying our best, what can you do when you allow Moise Kean to head in the third? Once again, in an important home European night, we let down a half-empty stadium and were eliminated. We signed Ayoub El Amrani from Willem II for 2 million to become our starting left back. Yet the Ekstraklasa was inconsistent. Prior to our quarterfinal match with Slonsk, I needed to rest my team against Zagłębie, which saw Szymon Kubakowski shock us again. That's alright, as long as we're prepared and ready for a tough away game at Slonsk. It was a reserve team. Off to the semis at least. That would ensue following these 5 fixtures, in which we won 1. Surprisingly, it was a semi-rotated squad against Wisła Kraków that restored our form. Thank you, Arkadiusz Milik, who's actually set for retirement. Maybe he will join the reserve staff filled with former Polish internationals. It was time for the semi-finals of the Puchar Polski. In order to get to the promised promised land, we had to defeat our rivals, Legia. With them at risk of falling behind us, this was their chance to slow down our rise in Poland. In the summer, Legia sold hitman Zbigniew Pytal to Hertha Berlin, but Kasper Sokołowski was not a bad replacement as he took the lead a few minutes after the interval. It's been a tough run to this point with all our matches away from home, but we were able to respond immediately with again the Iron Skull of Buchkowski. Shifting the clock to the 65th, our new signing El Amrani smacked home the go-ahead goal. Legia couldn't respond as our first Puchar Polski final awaited. Although we may have done too much partying, as 3 days later we lost to Cracovia. A week later was the dress rehearsal for the final, LKS Łódź. But neither of us wanted to reveal our secrets. Returning to Legia Stadium, they continued to take L's as we smoked them 3-0. Unfortunately, those drop points in the Ekstraklasa for the last few months led us being placed in 4th with as many fixtures remaining, and we were the odd ones out. I can live with that, as long as we win the Puchar Polski. LKS Łódź are stated to be our competitive rival, from campaigns like in 1997-98 to having financial problems in 2013, plummeting both into Poland's 5th tier. Climbing up the leagues, they'd meet each other on several occasions. Łódź would reach the Ekstraklasa first. Outside of our first match, we've remained undefeated against them. However, the Puchar Polski is a different story. In back-to-back seasons, we have been eliminated by them in penalties. In both occasions, Łódź would reach the final. We may have passed them on Ekstraklasa trophies, but that isn't the case with the domestic cup. We now face off again, this time for the Puchar. Managing this 11, I believe this was ours to lose. Yet as we continued to miss chances, the clock ticked quickly. Goals arrived, but in the offside variant, as this was headed into extra time. Grudzinski was all over the pitch, although didn't have the finishing touch. We then passed the 100th minute, and disaster struck. Oh no, Pindor! Pindor! Sent off! The favorite academy kid who has overperformed his ability left the pitch in disgrace. Dreams of a happy ending were fading away, but we had another cult hero to rescue us. Pavel Tomczyk had fallen out of favor. Less starts were given, as players with incredible promise thrived. Still, those two Ekstraklasa campaigns would never be forgotten, and to make sure he'd be remembered in Polonia folklore, he sniffed out an error from their defense and snatched the lead. 15 minutes separate us from the trophy. We had to be resilient, as that number lowered to 10 and kept going until it hit 6. As from a Łódź corner, Arkadiusz Milik pushed Traore for a penalty. It was up to former Rycerza Wiosny keeper Alexander Bobek, the man who must have bled red and white for his boyhood club. He's a Real Madrid supporter. Our opponents tucked it, leaving 5 minutes until the shootout. Straight away, if we lose this final, we've been dominating. This will be devastating. Białek. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Oh no, indeed. As pushing everyone forward led to a late corner. He is up. Whip it in. No, over the bar! LKS Łódź are again Puchar Polski winners, meaning they earned the Europa League playoff. So this is a situation. Łódź will finish in mid-table, causing the top 4 to correlate with these European positions. First place looked unlikely for us, which benefits my aim of achieving the Conference League. Not so fast. We defeated soon-to-be relegated Brookbet with Góra's brace, while Zagłębie Lubin lost. Lech Poznan? They drew LKS Łódź. Śląsk, however, won, and we visited them next in a potential title-deciding game as we casually scored 4 first-half goals. It was as if they didn't want to qualify into the Champions League. Couldn't be me, although they did almost come back. Lech, meanwhile, came up short to Legia Warszawa, having us level with them. Because of our head-to-head, that put us into first, resulting in 2 easy fixtures to retain the title. Home to Chroo, we won 5-0, meaning all we had to do was to defeat an already relegated Radomiak. I didn't even have to try, as despite being 5 points behind with 4 to go, we lifted the Ekstraklasa for a 3rd straight season. Lech Poznan didn't even finish in 2nd, losing to Śląsk. At least Milik ends his career with a trophy, and Tomczyk celebrates another title over Lech. The more you think about it, the more funny this is. But seriously, how can I even win the Conference League if I can't even qualify for it? Bartosz Grudzinski was a player clearly too good for us. A genuine world-class midfielder that came from Norway but was Polish, he decided that the next step needed to be taken. I thought that was fair, and despite my bitter feeling, I said he could leave at the end of the season, only for my board to blindside me and accept a transfer offer from Manchester United. With the new regime, they didn't even allow me to protest the transfer like with Pawłowski years prior, and in spite of greater offers being accepted, he chose United, leaving me on my knees.
Ubezpieczasz I oszczędzasz cash.
Villa were willing to pay parts of Matty Cash's wages. Granted, he scored an own goal on his debut. Probably the only remarkable thing he did. Losing Grudzinski for less than what we should have was tough. Still, it was a lot of money to spend, which brought in Oskar Kwiatkowski following his failed spell at Atalanta. Argentina center back Adrian Rodriguez, who I'm surprised hadn't been picked up yet, followed. Up next was Artur Duda from Legia Warszawa. Maybe the most controversial signing in the history of the city, he was a player I couldn't miss out on. Along with him, I did buy a lot of Polish players, albeit they were loaned back to their original clubs. I also may have done some Italian accounting, buying this Michał Miskaj from Śląsk for 5 million, while selling Maxi Oyadelli and Kasper Przybylski to them for a little over half the price. Useful in the early stages, it was time to move them on. Selling Pedro Gomes led to the loosening of my foreign transfer rules, from 1 non-Polish player per transfer window, to now in addition being able to replace a foreign sale with a transfer like with high potential defender Abdikani Ahmed joining. Forewarning, it's gonna loosen up much more. This season felt similar to the previous. We weren't gonna lose the Champions League playoff qualifier versus Albanian champion KF Vllaznia, but I didn't expect to lose to Fenerbahce 4-1. Had to be the Polish guy to score on me. On paper, the fixtures seemed 50-50 on difficulty, although Liverpool, Leipzig, Bayern, and Newcastle consecutively was a daunting task. Yet, just 2 are lost. None were against the English sides, as we were minutes away from a historic win over Liverpool, only for Mirko Banakim to score a late equalizer. You might recognize that name, maybe from this? What about this name? Or this one? A database that has players from all my previous saves? That is this world. If you want to use this database too, I have it available behind specific tiers on my Patreon, YouTube memberships, and even Twitch tier 1 subs. It took a lot of work to make this, which is why it's behind a paywall. Income from YouTube ad revenue is very unpredictable, especially with how much time one of these videos takes to create. I don't like asking for things such as this, but even if you subscribe to the most basic tiers, it is much appreciated. Newcastle at St. James's Park was the biggest win in our club's history. An early second half goal from Kwiatkowski was all that we needed, handing us a 1-0 victory. That excitement and joy, only to lose to Feyenoord at home. Similar to last year, January was key. Thankfully, Slavia Prague were the L takers as we dominated and barely got past them. That had us on 7 points, and a win in Ukraine versus Shakhtar Donetsk would be enough. Against the Premier League rejects, we were doing just that, until we conceded a penalty converted by Emil Højbjerg. We left with a point, and I've been told that 8 is usually enough. I missed out with 7 previously, and this time, we finished in 24th, keeping our run alive. Out of these 8 options we could face, you might think, damn, you got lucky with Feyenoord. I thought so too. They did defeat us when we hosted them. Granted, took a brilliant strike and a penalty as they only mustered 3 shots. Surely, they'll have less luck on their feet. Yet, they were a tough team to crack. And when the option to officially replace Grudzinski arrived with Vujovic Jukic, he chose Feyenoord over me. Was this an omen? Yeah, since my options for this vacant role went to Kwiatkowski initially. Defensive deficiencies, however, made me go shopping. Jorge Escudero was the man, although he hadn't learned how to operate in defensive midfield. I'm not providing much hope, and that's because in the 84th minute of leg 1, Nelson Wiper came out of nowhere to head in the opener. Then prior to the 90th, we conceded a penalty, which I swear is giving me deja vu of season 2. Wiper stepped to the spot, but got stopped by Bobek, keeping our chances alive for the second leg. Except nope, Alistair Johnston scored early, and we did nothing to close down the deficit. Leaving the Netherlands spitting at some guys' feet who just wanted an autograph, I was just tired. So why have I barely mentioned the Ekstraklasa? Well, why would I? On the penultimate match day, we faced our sole challengers, Lech Poznan. If they won, it would have made for an interesting finale. Instead, they missed this chance in the 90th minute as we lifted our 4th straight league title. The only true competitive competition was, of course, the Puchar Polski. Coming off a stunning loss a year ago, we reached the final again. This time, it would be Raków, who've won several of these already. They've fallen off in recent seasons, although we're on another resurgence. Despite us being the favorites and every opportunity created, I was getting a familiar feeling as it remained 0-0. That familiarity continued into extra time, where Frode Fredriksson got a second yellow, sending us to 10 men for a consecutive year. Unlike then, we didn't score, and neither did the opponent, as penalties determined the winner. With Rakus Kasanvirio missing the second pen and us scoring our opening 4, it was all up to Kasper Pindor to win us the Puchar. Could he make up for the previous year's tragedy? You've gotta be taking the piss! Raków sent it to sudden death. In round 6, Arloni Obiawa converted his. With the pressure on Rakus Gonzalez, Bobek made sure this wasn't going any further, as we at last won the Puchar Polski after 7 seasons. It was a rare sense of joy which arrives when you become too good for one competition, but not good enough in another. Still, at least we got to celebrate Polonia Warszawa's first Puchar Polski since 2001. So what now? I did mention the restrictions would be loosened. I needed to find European glory sooner rather than later, and that meant improving the roster more rapidly. Say hello to Dominik Kramer from Wolfsberger, Sondre Vik of Bodo Glimt, Samuel Chukwueze on a free, the expensive loan of the Cube from Fulham, and the man I'm gonna call the one.
He is the one.
I think I found him, as Ade Ramos arrived in a record $28.5 million deal from Tenerife. Where is this money coming from? Champions League in it. I did make sales as well, initially with Buczkowski, who believed he was better than he actually was. Last season, I promised Pavel Majerski that he may be sold for 11 million. I wanted to keep him, but PSV offering up to 20 million couldn't be refused. Concluding, Kazimierz Novak, who is bad in big games, was sold to St. Louis for 24 million. With a few additional sales, including Matty Cash, who did nothing, we were losing a lot of our Polish identity, so we were becoming a normal Ekstraklasa side. I was a little hesitant as I didn't want to become a squad filled with 18 players with little Polish identity. It will be difficult to buy ones that can start, since most either earn too much, are valued way too highly, or always have a team with a greater reputation after them. There's unfortunately not many great talents out there. My plan was to find a way into the Europa League. Who knows? Maybe we could pull off something incredible. We're already in the league phase? So why are we automatically qualified? Normally, only a champion automatically qualifies if they're in the top 10 of the coefficient ranking. We were 12th. However, Barcelona and Lazio won the champions in Europa separately. That qualifies you for Europe's elite, although they already hold a position domestically. In that case, those spots are given to champions of countries not already in the league phase. That's Belgium and Poland, meaning us. In our 3rd Champions League campaign, we learned 3 things in the league phase. Number 1, Red Bull clubs are our kryptonite. Number 2, Ade Ramos may not be the one with a single Champions League strike. Granted, that arrived versus Barcelona in an incredibly thrilling 3-all, which saw Juliano Mateus grab a hat-trick. Number 3, 1-0 is a superior scoreline. 5 of our fixtures ended like that, whether it was losses like against Bayern and Salzburg, or in clutch victories versus Valencia and Benfica. After the defeat to Salzburg, I went with a cautious approach and even defensive at Bayern. While our goal scoring seems to stutter in these cases, we do enough to make each game competitive, and sometimes we find a way. Not a 1-0, but we got over our Feyenoord demons with an 89th minute winner from Łukasz Piekarski, who was signed from Motor Lublin in 2028. While I don't think he is the guy, it's a solid option off the bench. That resulted in a 13th place finish, where we'd face Bayer Leverkusen in the playoff round. Managed by Benergino, the former Fortaleza manager was in a weird situation. Second in the Bundesliga, yet in the last month, they suffered a home loss to Real Sociedad, got wrecked in the concluding league phase match to Spurs 9-1. Finally, they got embarrassed by Frankfurt at home before facing us. They got good players in their 4-4-2, including Joe Bellingham, Xavi Simons, and a backline still at their peak. Or maybe not. It was bound to be difficult, but we desperately required progress to be made. Leverkusen were keeping more possession and were on the forefront of the offense. Luckily, Bobek kept it scoreless. Soon after that big save, the one was sent through. Good to Duda, to our playmaker. Now we're entering their final third. The one, Adi Ramos. Oh my days, man, come on. You have 17 finishing. 17! As I was doubting whether he was the one, Bobek continued to ball out. Another Leverkusen free kick arrived. This time, we were able to counter. So much space was given, leading to Duda handing it to the overlapping Szyborowski, who put a pass across to Fredriksson for the opener. The assistee was signed in January, along with Pionkowski to provide much needed depth. Such a massive goal before the half. A few moments ensuing the interval, we won the ball from a Leverkusen throw-in, leading to a bit of build-up. It would see the cube finding the one, and you know what? He may actually be it. 2-0 Polonia. We couldn't get comfortable, as the hope for a clean sheet came to an end with 20 to go. Xavi Simons was left open, and his shot deflected in. Leverkusen continued to look threatening, but in fact, we countered them, leading to empty spaces for Fredriksson, and he smashed it off the bar. 6 guys forward, the counter was against us, leading to Irankunda getting found. However, Leverkusen again failed to get past Bobek. A massive 8 saves from the Polish netminder gave us a shocking advantage back to Warszawa. To the Narodowe we go, and we didn't change anything until bad news arrived. We had to make a change, since Fredriksson got a thigh strain lasting up to 6 weeks. So if we got past Leverkusen, oh wait, they won the title in this adventure, we wouldn't have him for the round of 16. Such a pity, and that can be said about the Cube, who got his penalty stopped. The home tie was nerve-wracking, especially with another big opportunity wasted. Thankfully, Bobek kept our net clean. That continued into the second, as eventually, Burita would seal our fate into the Champions League round of 16. Bobek though was easily the man of the match, with another 8 saves and an 8.9 match rating. We could be proud of finally reaching this point. It's going to be tough going forward, as our focus remains in Germany, with Bayern Munich drawn. Luis Enrique was in charge, as he managed a strong team with Endrick, Florian Wirtz, incredible French midfielders, and more. Still, we only lost 1-0 to them earlier in the campaign. Granted, they wasted a bunch of chances, but I'd say that's due to how we play. With the first leg in Warszawa, the half-empty National Stadium awaited our fate. Since Fredriksson remained injured, I shifted Kremer, who's been our libero, into defensive midfield. That moved Ahmed to the middle, and brought in Polak Tomaso Guercio into the fold. Beginning the action in the 23rd minute, it seemed as if Bayern were going to bully us. However, the Cube said, "Not on my watch," as he aggressively wins it back, leading to a couple passes where El Amrani sends a ball in behind to the one. And of course, he gives us the lead. Beautiful scenes as Bayern were in for it. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm nervous. I'm nervous when we play out from the back. My face says it all. Despite the setback, we were doing well, and a positive result seemed to be on the horizon. That was until the 89th minute, where for some reason, El Amrani tackled Coyote from a corner kick pass, leading to a penalty. I don't know if there's a mysterious entity mind controlling him or what, because there should be 0 universes where a tackle like this occurs. I'm also a tad salty. Now we had to go to the Allianz and needed a miracle. No changes were required, as our European run was expected to end. The Cube is gonna whip it in. Who can he find? The Cube? No one. But he gets it. But Burita gets the second ball back to the Cube. Boom! Equal in aggregate. The Cube makes it 1-0. Bayern seemed a little too confident, with certain names not being selected and using the 4-2-2 instead of the 4-3-3. Their danger was present, but they rarely threatened in the opening 45. The time breezed past us, as my bench saw little movement. The tiredness of my defensive midfielders did worry me, especially with limited options to replace them. Then, in the 90th minute, oh no, please don't mess this up, guys. Okay, that's good. It's pouring at the Allianz. We are on a good attack. But Vik is just gonna shoot. Bro, we had 5 guys, that's what you did. Extra time at the Allianz, and I did set up some substitutions. Bayern's lineup looked a tad curious, although the tenseness remained. That increased by the end of the half, where Bayern passed it around, catching us out for Vidovic's goal. The squad was clearly dead tired, so even if it meant taking great players off, Fresh legs were the priority. In the final 15, we did just that, went more direct, and told everyone bar the defenders to attack. Following up from a corner, El Amrani whips it in, Piekarski doesn't get on the end of it, Bugai. Yes! Let's go! A new breath of life was sprung, and Bobek too made a crucial stop with minutes remaining. Not too long after the save, win that. Nice. Piekarski. Piekarski, okay. Bugai. What is happening? We beat Bayern Munich. Piekarski's brace off the bench has sent Bayern Munich out. The Champions League quarters, here we land. Bobek again kept us in it, and many pieces of the roster pulled off the biggest night in our history. In the quarterfinal draw, we got paired with AC Milan, managed by me? The Chroo was Espanyol manager for a very long time. While I won't go into depth about him and the great career he had, or could have had, I knew a man that had knowledge about him inside and out. Our new coach, Wu Lei. It's a shame his intel lacks set pieces. AC Milan are still a damn strong team in Italy, with Raspadori, Rafael Leao, Baturina, Theo Hernandez, and several more. It sucked losing the first leg, as we left and barely dented their net. Thankfully, our best possible lineup was available, it just wasn't their night. The second leg was in Warsaw, and while we drew them years ago at the same location, our 11 had significantly improved. All we needed was a goal. In the 18th minute, we got just that from Kwiatkowski. A little lucky, although I wasn't complaining. Now, is it possible to keep AC Milan out? That's been the question every round, and at the break, it seemed fine. That switched 30 seconds later. Despite his brilliance, the Cube is poor defensively, and on his side, Baturina sprinted past him into the box to regain their aggregate lead. Another setback didn't deter the focused faces of our guys, as they went from the kickoff down the pitch, where the Cube put in a brilliant delivery to Kwiatkowski to equalize the overall score again. A brace from the man who failed in Italy. How poetic. Nevertheless, we survived our way to another extra pair of halves. Once again, no subs, and I continued the risk. That could have costed us if it wasn't for the post, or of course, Bobek. The players gave everything, but many had to make way. AC Milan continued to pummel shots on us, yet Bobek matched them. With the final whistle arriving, history was achieved. Not only were we a shootout away from making the semi-final, Bobek broke the record for most saves in a Champions League match. 16 were made. His job, however, wasn't done. Setting up our penalty takers, they were beyond mid. Worse than that, as one of the better takers, Chukwueze, was accidentally written down last. This fixture was happening on my birthday, which was also the Milan manager's birthday. Somebody was going to have a bad day. Thankfully, the Cube settled any of our nerves with the opener. Leao then sent Bobek the wrong way. New signing Pionkowski. Kane, Moises Kane. Bobek stops it! Rodriguez and Reinders both converted theirs, while Ahmed put it top bins. Malik Chow, who scored in the first leg, but Bobek keeps him out! Piekarski could now send us to the semis. He was already clutch versus Bayern. Can he do it again? Let's go! To the semifinals. Barcelona, I see you there. Indeed, it would be Barcelona in the semi-final. Last year's winners held off Liverpool. They've not been a dominant force in our adventure, failing to win La Liga up to this point, but 2 Champions League titles. We know the danger of Juliano Mateus. His partner, though, would be Lamine Yamal. Converted to a striker in Materazzo's 5-back system, it was filled with mostly La Masia kids, or those bought in Laporta's reign. Although, Salvador Poulsen looked like a crazy defender. Oh, and there's a Nazio. On our end, we were in trouble. Dominic Kremer was suspended for the first leg, and Adrian Rodriguez suffered a hernia injury, keeping him out for the tie. That meant I had to use Guercho again, as well as Kamil Pionkowski, who was a significant downgrade. With a back 3 playing together for the first time in a European semi-final, it's not surprising that we conceded early to Yamal. Within half an hour, he'd outjumped the previously mentioned Pionkowski to double it. This was quickly getting away from us. So I moved to a more direct and structured approach approach to see if anything else could happen. With a little help, a pass was sent in to the 1 that was misplayed by Ignacio's Mentori as he got us back into it. Still an entire half to keep a respectable scoreline. Unfortunately, we might have ringed out our luck, as despite winning the ball, it fell to Gavi for Barca's 3rd. Then, for reasons, I decided to use the cube as a roaming playmaker, and he'd roam into Fredriksson as they clanked into each other, leading to Pedri's banger. That wasn't ideal, and the world of FM decided to pour gasoline and throw a match into my troubles as Alamrani got injured post-match. With Kremer returning in the second leg, he did make an immediate impact by getting a goal relatively early. Sadly, opportunities came far and few between. We tried and did defeat Barcelona. It wasn't enough though, as we lost the aggregate 4-2. Was this my best opportunity at this competition, let alone any in Europe? After returning from holiday post a crazy Champions League run, I received a letter saying that I must leave Poland within 2 years due to demand from other managers named Chroo?
The game's gone.
1. How is this remotely legal? And 2. Does that mean I failed my capital city challenge? With 2 seasons left, we can still complete the original idea this was based on, and that is to win a Champions League with a capital city club. We were so close previously, and it's not like we have any other choice. What I failed to mention in ensuing our unbelievable run was that once again, we won the Ekstraklasa and the Puchar Polski. An early goal by Kwiatkowski gave us a domestic win. Meanwhile, the league would have been glorious. We overcame Raków to win the title thanks to them dropping 4 matches out of the last 6. They were also on the verge of doing something incredible. Legia Warszawa were a loss away from relegation. Raków faced them and lost. Absolutely useless. Was that Champions League campaign a fluke? Possibly, but there's only one way to find out. For our 9th season in Poland, I said goodbye to Alan Burita for nearly 10 million and Samuel Chukwueze for a little over 1. Sadly, Kasper Pindor's time here was also at an ending point, with him sent on loan to Odra Opole and eventually leaving on a free transfer. That opened the right wing spot for Gabriel de Jesus Napoles. The Mexican arrived for 12.5 million and was perfect. Almost perfect. On the left, I decided to move the cube to that role after completing a 26 million euro transfer. That's because Javier Solis will play in the segundo spot, a really talented Ecuadorian who joined a year ago for 4.5 mil and was on loan at Augsburg. To conclude, Ivan Ristic for 2 million was a no-brainer. An outstanding young keeper that improved rapidly. He initially began as the Ekstraklasa starter and Bobek continued in the Champions League. Every single fixture was tight. Continuing with our cautious approach, it all began with our former player, Bartosz Grudzinski. Finding his feet in England, we are competing well with a club managed by Erik ten Hag. Thanks to a couple solid stops by Vicario, we were unlucky to not be up 1-0. Then, with 15 to go, Grudzinski did this. A magnificent strike to give United the victory. Following was FC Rapid of Romania, who we barely managed to get by. Kind of concerning. Napoli at home was a curious affair. Nothing too crazy occurred, which made me feel uncomfortable, leading to an adventurous approach. In the last 5 minutes, we went up for a corner, and as quickly as it was taken, Napoli, just as fast, went down the pitch and gave us the L. Small margins were making the difference, whether positively, for instance, a first-minute strike against Barcelona, or negatively, like Lamine Yamal's deflected goal bringing back those semi-final pains. At least it was a point. Another should have been earned at the San Siro versus Inter. Maybe not the one. Ade Ramos finally showed up with an equalizer in the 80th. Unfortunately, in the 90th, Inter broke through, but Bobek stopped it. Then in ways I can't explain, a follow-up header went as such. In added time, however, I went full out, and a counter-attack sprung up. Piekarski was given the ball, got by a man, and had the equalizer at his feet. Shoot at either side of the keeper, and we receive a point.
Ah, shucks. That was so close, guys. Good effort.
How did he miss that? To reassure that we weren't complete frauds, wins arrived versus Porto and Celtic. It was going to be another year in the playoff, and the finale versus Leverkusen would determine the strength of our opponent. Benergino's men haven't forgotten about our encounter. Yep, we were looking stronger. Or maybe not. In the 15th minute, the Cube would receive a glorious chance, only to casually hit the post. It'd be cliche to say he rue this chance. Several minutes later, he would, as buffoonery arrived. What seemed like a soft header caused Bobek to somehow punch it in the opposite direction at the speed of light, where 2 free passes led to Leverkusen's opener. Straight from kickoff, we'd lose our heads as they would score again. By the 28th minute, a corner made it 3-0. What the hell just happened? The fixture concluded at 4-2, causing us to finish in 21st. It was a difficult set of games, which could have seen a handful of more points if we got luckier. I think last season used that all up though, because we were paired with Real Madrid. The winners of La Liga in every single campaign so far, their sole Champions League triumph was a 2029 victory over Manchester City at the Puskás Arena. It was the weird team that Zinedine Zidane managed. Oh, another return? They had Rodrigo become the striker, a pair of wingers unknown to me, plus Jeremy Doku. Jude Bellingham was the captain and paired with Camavinga. Defensively, they seemed strong and elite in some aspects, but not entirely out of this world. I believed it was doable, and in the home tie, we did a great job to keep them quiet for the first half. After a decent opportunity from the one, Real Madrid built themselves up as Ahmed fell for Rodrigo's trick, leaving space in behind for Jude to find him, as we trailed 1-0 going into the Bernabeu. Unfortunately, our lads had suffered some unfortunate suspensions and injuries. Napolis and Duda were both out for leg 1, along with the Cube, limiting my options off the wings. Plus, Adrian Rodriguez once more received an injury before a big match. Oh, and Fiakovsky was playing with a fractured arm, meaning Piekarski had to play out wide. Guro had to play too, as he and Tomczyk were being featured less and less. That didn't matter, because prior to the 10th, Solis decided not to bring this ball down. Then immediately, he goes and clanks into a Madrid player for a penalty. Jude converts, making this over. Solis continued to aid in our downfall by losing his marker Jude Bellingham, who ran in for a brace. Overall, we lost this tie 4-1, making me very concerned for this challenge. The thing is, we might not even make the Champions League. By the time we were eliminated, not only did we lose in the quarters of the Puchar Polski, we were third in the Ekstraklasa. Players were pissed and the drama engulfed us. However, let's be real. Polish sides aren't known for being consistent, and the quality of our squad outmatches everyone. We'd end up winning the final 6 games of our schedule, narrowly winning the league by 3 points. A satisfying ending. Did half of our players just leave the stadium? Where's our players? Where did they go? Did they say, nah, I'm not even lifting that trophy. We've won too many of these. I'm leaving. And these are the players that actually care about the Ekstraklasa? And a nice send-off for Pavel Tomczyk. 10 years and 73 goals. At age 34, he felt it was the right moment to hang up the boots, leaving the footballing world. Maybe not a legend, but certainly a cult hero. Thank you, Pavel Tomczyk. We were given a 22 million budget to win the Champions League. Despite players demanding to leave, I always said no to any offers. Why would I give any time to teams who continuously send lowball bids? I was feeling confident for this new campaign though. Rather than this cautious approach and shape, I went with a positive 3-5-2 with a slight twist. Everything behind the 3 would remain similar. In the offense, the advanced playmaker shifted inward, while the right winger became a false 9 that stayed wider and ran wide with the ball. To make the system work, Michael Olise surprisingly signed on a free to take up this false 9 role. Then came Augustine.
It smells like a victory.
Look at him, as I never could have dreamed to have a player like this in Poland. Yet, here we were, and for under 10 million. Money did come in too, as Javier Solis was sold to Atalanta for 37 million up front. That meant the Cube was returning to his segundo role. To back him up, Sebastian Szymanski arrived from Fenerbahce. Our squad was almost set. However, at Polonia Warszawa, things are never so simple. Olise seemed to have adapted well as a false 9, grabbing a goal and 2 assists versus Jagiellonia. By the 90th, I should have taken him off, but instead, he remained and was battling against Abella. The Colombian decided to slide tackle him from less than a yard out. This caused him to tear his thigh muscle, leaving him out of action for 2 to 3 months. Thank goodness I didn't sell Napolis, whose transfer was only delayed because I requested the board to increase our revenue retained percentage. In the end, he wasn't sold to Leverkusen and became an incredible option at false 9. If that injury wasn't bad enough, my board did it again. Damn, Giovanni. As Manchester City's offer of Ahmed was accepted, the Dutch defender, who was becoming a mentality monster, was going to leave. In a final ditch of hope, I offered him out for 60 million, and Newcastle pounced. For some reason, the Dutchman chose them over the consecutive Champions League winners, giving me a decent amount of funds to improve my defense. We were fine in midfield with last January's transfer of Piotr Szczepanik backing up Fredriksson, another controversial Legia transfer. The wingbacks were good too, so this cash was spent on 2 center backs. I wanted Jakub Kiwior, but his wage demands were proving to be tricky. Putting that aside, I went with Poland's second best defender, Patryk Peda. Yeah, it's not that impressive. Yet, against any sort of common sense, I made a 50 million offer for him. The agent said he wanted 80 to 110k. Alright, let's talk. What? 155k? Andrea Krimi? More like Andrea the Criminal? Who the hell do you think you are? Świnia jesteś. By deadline day, thanks to a couple of sales, I was able to sign Jakub Kiwior for a cheaper contract than anticipated. That, along with El Shadel Bichiabu for a record fee of 70 million. Apparently, I could have just called him Chad. Of course, that deal was done with installments. He's a great option to have, and while that means our foreign total is at 12, I still think we have a solid Polish contingent. With this team and new tactics, we absolutely cooked the Ekstraklasa. Unlike the last few years where it was actually close, I took this season very seriously. Carrying on from the previous campaign, we won 29 games in a row, losing our first on match day 19 to Lech Poznan. A stupid game, may I say, with a former player scoring a hat-trick on us. Nevertheless, it shouldn't be surprising with us being this good. Although, Sondre Vik was, as by match day 22, he had 8 goals and 9 assists as a wingback. Dominance was showcased across the board, but could this be matched in the Champions League? I'd say so, with our easiest schedule. Despite the scorelines, Braga and Anderlecht were light work, getting revenge over the latter. Borussia Dortmund was a crazy encounter, with set pieces giving us the lead by the half. That led to domination in the second, as thanks to Napolis' brace, we dismantled BVB 5-2. Bayern Munich, however, was tricky, as it was the first match in all competitions where we dropped points. It took 20 games, but it didn't slow us down in Europe. Salzburg saw another Napolis marker. Unfortunately, Fredriksson's red card caused a nervy game. Thankfully, we kept a clean sheet. On match day 6, Celtic caused a scare with a 15th minute opener from Akomea. In spite of not looking good at the half, we persevered with Szymanski in the cube, whose goals were barely enough for the 3 points. Our first ever top 8 finish would be confirmed, following our 2-0 victory over Porto. No playoff shenanigans, as the round of 16 was our destination. Still, we had one more match, and it was at the Santiago Bernabeu. This was a really good effort by our guys. Unfortunately, I forgot that Dedic, who was playing left back, has a strong right foot, as he was allowed to cut inside to find Budaše for the opener. Prior to the half, we earned a penalty, with Elise making it level. Everything seemed good, until my mouth started yapping. Good job by the Cube. What I like about the Cube in the Segundo role is that he's very aggressive and why does this always happen? If we can avoid silly errors, I think we can compete with the best of the best. Runners up in the league phase table was a shock to many, even to me. Key performers in this portion have to include Vik with 4 assists. The best though was a guy almost sold. Napoles in the false 9 position found 4 goals and 2 assists with a 7.97 match rating. Augustine unsurprisingly did get several contributions. It's just in the games that he doesn't do well, he really doesn't do well. With us on the sidelines for the playoff portion, the draw eventually arrived. We would have a rematch with Bayern Munich. Crazy that it's happening at the same stage as 2 years ago. After their embarrassing defeat to us, they went on to make the final the very next season. Remarkable resilience by Luis Enrique's men. Alas, they lost, which was the end of his era. He moved on to Inter, meaning definitely not Thomas Tuchel returned to the club. A 4-2-3-1 rather than a 4-3-3 or 4-2-2, their team was pretty much the same as before. When they're hot, they may be impossible to handle. Starting off, Alphonso Davies receives the ball and hooks around everybody, ending up at the byline to easily find Samuel Illing for a quick opener. Look, that's fine. There's a lot of time left, and straight away, we nearly equalize. A busy early portion that fizzled out for the remainder of the 45. Bayern then made changes that I couldn't immediately react to, seeing them nearly grab a second. A huge relief, which soon saw two of our best players in the competition combine, as Vik out wide finds Napoles as the man from Mexico would equalize this tie. The rest of our match was being managed well, but disaster would strike with 7 to go. Bayern effortlessly found their way to the final third, as Mathis Tell ran past the cube. Chad had his path blocked. Cube, what are you doing? Ristic failed to reach the strike. Bayern won the first leg, as I was so annoyed by the cube. How many mistakes are you gonna make in crucial moments? He's not even known to be bad in big games, yet that's a second decisive error against a formidable opponent. The aftermath saw Kremer get injured, which made me feel lucky that I signed 2 defenders. Also, we finally lost again in the league to Rakov. Spoiler alert, we would be lifting the extra Klasse following the Bayern tie, whether we win it or not. It's the fastest that I've ever won the league, and the record point total of 88 seemed ready to be broken. The second leg had us in a familiar spot from that previous encounter, down by 1 and needing a goal. Thankfully, we were in front of our home crowd. Not the half-empty Narodowy, because the board expanded the stadium to under 11,000. That's it? Good news for the future of the club, they're planning to build a new stadium that fills in less than 16,000. Anyways, our intention was known. The one, who should be called the 8 for the amount of times he's offside in a game, was benched. Augustin went to striker, while the cube to Cam. It was a controversial decision that didn't matter since Augustin got injured in the 9th minute. Brilliant. The half flew by with little going on, giving us this final 45 to keep our dreams alive. Nearing the hour mark, Bayern were playing quick short passes, only for us to stop their tiki-taka party and counter. The cube would make a brilliant pass. Vik, just one pass, Vik. The one. Yes! Let's go! Counter-attack of dreams. The 70th minute arrived, and we had another in us, as Rodriguez found Vik, who got past Tell's weak tackle, to find his best friend Napoles for the lead. The cube would get stopped moments later, as Bayern spiraled out of this tie. We held on, and moved on to the quarterfinals. History repeats itself, and would it do so again for the quarters? AC Milan were drawn, and their opponents wouldn't be us like 2 years ago. It'd be a different repeat, just around sooner, as we pulled Barcelona. There were no easy matches left, although I really wanted to avoid them. Winning this would see us face an English side. Winning? That's a difficult question. Could we defeat Barcelona? Previously, we did so in that knockout tie. Granted, we were 4-1 down on aggregate. Thankfully, they were missing Juliano Mateus, who was on loan at Lille for some reason. Instead, this Smulders guy was signed in the summer who didn't seem as good. Defensively though, they improved. That Poulsen guy has remained, and the same goes for Ronald Araujo, but not Inacio. Instead, they signed Romanian Vasile Ursu, who is over 2 meters tall. For ourselves, Augustin was returning from injury, while Kremer was given the start after his. I would soon regret that choice. We hosted the first leg, and Barcelona were dominant. Lamine was already causing scares with his first time shot, and Matarazzo's system again proved tough to crack. Prior to the interval, we had a goal kick, which led to Kremer stepping into midfield to pass the ball to the other team. Barca immediately gets it to Smulders, who found Lamine for the opener. As I was foaming at the mouth, we had to accept the situation, falling behind 1-0, and we did so without attempting a shot. I decided to move Kremer out of the libero role and go a little more offensive overall to not lose this leg. Nothing changed, as near the hour mark, Ursu was given the ball. No way, no way, no way. Are you kidding me, man? Maybe it would have been a goal regardless of Kremer's intervention. However, why do we keep making stupid mistakes? Going 2-0 down heading to the Camp Nou would be disastrous. Thankfully, Vik showed up late to keep us on life support. Was a different formation required for leg 2? I questioned that, especially with Barca's stubborn formation. I realized I should be looking in a mirror. Still, I kept things similar, except for Kremer. With our backs against the wall, we needed to try and go for it. 7 minutes in, and Augustin nearly equalizes the tie. We can do this. Instead, it may have been our only opportunity to equal the tie. Barca were toying with us, and were defensively solid. Plus, we were clowning around, quite literally. At the end of the day, we weren't good enough, as wait, a corner in the final seconds. With the keeper up, it's now or never. Come on. Oh, why are you trying to bicycle kick? And it's over. Looking at this letter again, is this journey done? I had a fun time for a good portion, seeing our team get better each year. While the league became easy, there was struggle, especially in the domestic cup. I got a red card in another final and lost on pens to Rakov. We were taking steps to be able to win a European trophy. However, our country's coefficient improved rapidly, continuously forcing us into the Champions League. And a cancelled plan. Maybe I needed to move clubs, but doing a save in a country I have a lot of attachment to made it difficult for me to make that decision. I literally became a legend too, which I rarely ever do. Plus, a lot of favorite Polish players were exiting or planning to do so at the end of their contracts. 10 seasons have gone by, and I failed to make any sort of mark on the Capital City Challenge. Wait, I still have another year left on my deal. Good luck kicking me out, corrupt authorities. I ain't leaving yet. With the final season in Poland, it was going to be tough to escape from the authorities. I had a year left on my contract and needed to give the Champions League one last shot in our Capital City Challenge. Avoiding arrest was easy actually, whether sleeping at different locations of the training ground, players' homes, or deserted shacks across Warszawa. Europe would be problematic, so for the away destinations in the league phase, I managed via Zoom. How did I not get caught for the home fixtures? I found a clever disguise. Nobody knew it was me. Big help to Giovanni, who I initially despised, but he's pulled a 180, like listening to me to not sell Kremer, in spite of us potentially failing financial fair play. I didn't spend a lot on transfers, with the most expensive being Mateus Carneiro Costa for less than 22 million via Flamengo. Was he necessary? No. However, with a pissed off Elise, I'd rather play somebody who was happy. With Bugaj gone, backing up Vik was Adam Bakone, who is part Polish. It didn't matter who I played in this role, because it could be Adam Bakune, Adam Sandler, or Adam and Eve. They'd still dominate the Ekstraklasa.
Alright, let's go.
That was without Jakub Kivior, who desperately wanted to go to Saudi Arabia. I can't blame him. Which was fine since Ibrahima Konate came on a free. Okay, he's past it. Unlike Mickey van de Ven, all known from Tottenham, we're paying his exorbitant wage plus fees that add up to 20 million. I was desperate. With several other sales occurring, our last piece of business was the loan of Sebastião Passarinho from Newcastle, a solid option off the bench. The final squad ever did well to make sure our Champions League path was smooth. 5 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses placed us in 7th, leading to a round of 16 spot. Augustin has been doing great playing as a striker rather than an attacking midfielder. In a deep-lying forward role on attack, he was on pace to break Poland's goal-scoring record and was competing with the best in Europe. The blips were a tough away match at Atalanta, getting unlucky with a late Trent deflection, and experimenting gone wrong versus Bayern. Before finding out who our knockout opponent would be, we'd regrettably lose in the Ekstraklasa. At Widzew Łódź, Adam would set us back with a 3rd-minute red card. We remained dominant and had a lead at the break. Then Widzew would equalize from an interesting corner routine. That was okay, as we won a penalty, only for the cube strike to be grabbed. Less than 10 minutes after that, a former player named Lisowski scored the winner. He never played a match for me. It's good to get that out of the way, as by the end of February, we had the Champions League draw. You could argue that the potential opponents were more difficult compared to the top 8. Maybe you're right, but the unseeded section didn't have Barcelona, so I'll take any of you, even Arsenal. The first ever meeting between us, I was familiar with them, especially their French attacker, Emil Gołąb, who's part Polish with that name and was born in Argentina. I've followed him since his River Plate days, hoping to have him on my team. Despite sending loan offers for many years, every attempt was rejected by the Pigeon. I wish Key was at the end. With it being the knockouts, I needed to risk attending the matches. So with a disguise, altered passport, and shady Giovanni connections, we got into London without a problem. Our lineup is close to normal. Shad would be our libero, partnering with fast Dutch guy and Adrian Rodriguez. The fullbacks are the usual, although at midfield, I dropped Fredriksson. Kremer was there instead because I wanted some height. Offensively, Augustin partnered with Napoles, with the new Brazilian behind them. Arsenal began with a lot of heat, with several chances in the opening 20. Oh no! 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 Oh my gosh, what are we doing? Who was Van de Ven looking at? Trying to lower our tempo didn't change much, as Warden smashed smack the bar, and would do so again in the 22nd, where the rebound landed at Gołąb. This may get ugly. Thankfully, Arsenal cooled off from there. Returning from the halftime break, we began passing it into space. Improvement was shown immediately, seeing action in the final third. That didn't result in a goal. However, in the 65th minute, we made a couple subs and decided to push more. The right decisions were made, with us grabbing the equalizer not long later, meaning we returned to Poland with a solid draw. I wouldn't say confidence was high for the second leg, although I wasn't scared. The cube getting injured in between wasn't ideal, but it did improve the defensive solidity of our midfield. Arsenal would shake up their lineup, starting a man who's nicknamed tuberculosis. I will not comment further. We kicked off in potentially my last European game in Poland. The boys would make sure that wouldn't be the case, as Vik's cross found Augustine! It smells like victory. An opening minute strike must have been stunning to Arteta's men. How would they react to Vik's near post cross to the one? I imagine not well, as our advantage extended. The Gunners or Gooners were rattled as they'd be less clinical and eventually quiet down as we advanced to the quarters. Our next opponent,
Internazionale. Faced them in the semi-final.
Still managed by Luis Enrique, who we have a good history with. He loved Liverpool players, since that was his midfield. The English love carried into the wings, with Matthew Stollery. Others to watch out for include the best FIFA Men's Player of the Year, Simone Pafundi. He's a guy who would have fit with Italy's 2006 World Cup squad. Then there is Ballon d'Or winner, Vitor Roque. He overcame his Barcelona struggles and is now a man you don't want to mess with. The pair would play together in Luis's 4-2-2. Could we handle the heat? Like Arsenal, Inter brought it to us, with 2 chances that should have been goals within the opening minutes. In spite of the barrage, it remained scoreless. We earned a free kick, and Van de Ven was wide open at the back post. Wide open, and he makes it 1-0. What are Inter doing there? Smoke was coming out of Luis Enrique's ears as we handled the rest of the game, keeping a clean sheet at the San Siro. We needed some luck and great goalkeeping by Ristic, yet this was going to be hard to lose at home. In between the legs, Inter tried to rattle us with a news report surrounding the cube being Inter's chief target. For as little as 4.1 million? What does chief target even mean? That was easily ignored, with us claiming our 8th Ekstraklasa title against our rivals, Legia, who was managed by Łukasz Piszczek. With that out of the way, we were focused on the second leg. Defensively, the team continued from the previous match, applying pressure and keeping Inter out. It was nervy with a slim lead, but continuing our fight led to a counter in the 70th. Alright, is anything gonna happen? I mean, we have a lot of space. Get it to the one. Nice. The one. Boom! Augustine! It smells like victory. 2-0 on aggregate. We grab another from Vik's incredible cross to find ourselves back into the Champions League semi-finals. The first time in 3 years. That was despite a scare to our netminder without any subs remaining. An incredible achievement by our club. I'd love it if we could take it a step further. Our opponents would be... No! Why is it always Barcelona? I would have taken anybody else. They're literally the only side I don't think I can beat. And that's because we can never score more than a goal against them. That's ignoring our first encounter, which was a 3-3 anomaly. Worst of all, this might be their best 11 as they finally overcome their La Liga juju. Plus, they decided not to handicap themselves and have Juliano Mateus return. Adding to this mountainous challenge, we had the Puar Polski semis a week prior. It was against Chroo, who we could easily beat. I used my strongest team and was winning. Yet in the second half, Philip Seeger did something I haven't seen in ages. An opponent scoring a free kick? That's okay, Vik would grab back the lead. Only for the ref to give this as a penalty? VAR didn't intervene as Chroo equalized the match. Then Philip Seeger would pop up again and did this! Bobek, who was in for the injured Ristic, had fallen off since his amazing Champions League campaign. Whether he was at fault or not, the blame would be sent to me by the guys who were on the pitch. They were pissed about losing, and I told them to look in a mirror. We were all involved. I know we've not won this trophy in ages, but we can overcome it eventually. Let's just worry about Barcelona. That didn't work. or at least the option wasn't there, as I had a disgruntled group of guys against Barca. The sole ray of hope was Lamine Yamal's injury. With double digits in goals and assists, there were doubts about his availability. He started. Of course he did. The man had 5 days until he returned from rehab, and Barcelona still played him. At least give him a small break. He's human after all. For ourselves, Schad was suspended, and Fredriksson was injured for a while. Realistically, we needed a win. Sadly, the opportunities were coming from them. Why are they so good? That question was in my mind. Until they made a mistake. Come on, Vik. Yes, let's go, Vik. Cube. Costa. Boom! 1-0 for Polonia Warszawa. Alright, maybe we can do this, as Augustin soon got a chance himself. Despite our ray of hope, you can never count out one particular Spaniard. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Lamine Yamal, of course. Injured ankle, terrible fitness, it didn't matter, because he is him. At least it wasn't a loss. We just need to keep the score level at the Camp Nou. Conceding in the 5th minute wasn't part of my plan. I wanted to begin cautiously. 3 years ago at the same location, I had worse defenders and conceded 4. Surely with the lads I have now, the game would be kept close. However, whether we could do that or not doesn't matter if we can't score. We desperately pushed for an equalizer, but if the starters aren't doing anything, we have so many options off the bench that can make a difference. Right? Even if my thoughts were true or not, nobody would be as impactful as Lamine Yamal, who found an unmarked Pedri. Glad that tight marking worked. Thanks, guys. Lamine again would find another assist to widen this gap by 3. You were literally in front of him! How are you not blocking the pass? Throwing everyone forward did jack shit, as we missed out on a Champions League final thanks to f***ing Lamine Yamal and Materazzo's untouchable back 5 once more. Anybody except for them, and I'm confident we'd be a step away from glory. Knowing my luck though, we would have faced Barcelona and lost. This is the actual end. The positive was that Augustin would reach 50 in all competitions, equalizing the Polish record for most goals scored in a season. Chasing a European trophy led to nightmares waking me up in the middle of the night, day by day. We couldn't overcome them, and that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. I watched Barcelona lift a 3rd Champions League title in 5 years. They defeated Benfica to do it, and of course, Lamine Yamal was important. Was staying an extra year illegally in Poland worth it, despite being part Polish? Probably not.